great sorcerer predicts the world's end in 5 years, and he is telling a massive crowd that his vision is absolute. His future sight has apparently never been wrong, which has everyone freaking out. But luckily for them, he has also seen a ray of hope presenting 7 saviors who are destined to save the world. This crowd immediately recognizes these legendary figures, completely losing their minds because this lineup includes the strongest man alive, this youngest S-rank sorcerer ever recorded, and a whole squad of other top-tier powerhouses. With a team like this, the public is totally convinced they are safe. So the prophecy of doom also came with a promise of salvation, which is where our actual main character's story begins. A young man just walking through the city as this news breaks. Fast forward 5 years to the prophecy Doomsday in Tokyo, where reporters are treating the apocalypse like a Super Bowl pregame show. Meanwhile, our boy, Ikuta Cookie, is just a janitor cleaning up the streets, thinking it is pretty bizarre that everyone is partying on the literal end of the world. He then spots a familiar face on the news broadcast, someone he calls Mickey, who is shown on screen absolutely demolishing monsters with her magic. Turns out she is a government-certified sorcerer and a subordinate of Savior number 7. This flashes back to his school days, where everyone mocked him for studying magic with zero talent. But Mickey was always there to tell him not to listen to the haters, giving him that classic anime protagonist pep talk about never giving up. Back in the present, her words still give him a sliver of hope. And at that exact moment, a glowing magic book literally falls out of the sky, right in front of him. Before he can react, a couple of sorcerer bullies walk up calling him Magic Zero trash. And they tell him to stick to his janitor duties instead of dreaming about powerful artifacts. Cookie's hope shatters since everyone knows magic only awakens in kids, not adults like him. He is left wondering why he was born with absolutely no power at all, but his existential crisis is interrupted by a massive citywide tremor. Suddenly, an alert blares that massive holes are opening up all over the world. And just as the prophecy said, monsters of all shapes and sizes start pouring out. A colossal skeleton demon appears, looking like it walked right out of a final boss cutscene. But right on schedule, the broadcast announces the grand entrance of the 7 saviors. This whole team descends from the sky, striking a pose like they are on a world tour. This crowd immediately starts fangirling, completely convinced the world is saved. One of the saviors, a cocky blonde kid, tells everyone not to worry. They will end this fast. An older member of the team declares it is time to show these monsters humanity's true power. And he wastes no time as Savior number 2 charges straight into the enemy lines, instantly vaporizing a flying monster with a massive blast of energy. This crowd goes wild, absolutely certain the monsters are finished after that one flashy attack, except a giant crab demon shambles out of the smoke looking completely unscratched. Suddenly, the broadcast feed cuts out, leaving everyone wondering where the saviors went. And the answer is not pretty, as Savior number 2 is shown completely obliterated. Just moments before, his dedicated fangirls were cheering him on with cute little signs, but now they are just standing there drenched from head to toe in his blood. This sheer horror on their faces says it all. This was definitely not part of the show. It is a total massacre with the so-called saviors getting torn apart all across the city. Humanity's greatest heroes are being wiped out one by one, their bodies littering the streets. This public can only stare in stunned silence, unable to process the absolute carnage. All that hope from 5 minutes ago has evaporated into pure, unfiltered despair. In the face of overwhelming power, their promised salvation was a complete joke. Cookie watches the whole disaster unfold, his face pale with shock. Even the cocky Savior number 7 is telling his teammate that they need to retreat immediately. But before they can escape, a golden-winged monster descends to finish them off, and his partner shoves him aside, telling him to survive and take her rank. She takes the full force of the monster's blast, sacrificing herself to save him. Cookie cannot believe what he is seeing as yet another hero falls. For a split second, the blonde kid actually tries to run, telling himself a savior's life is too important to waste. But he runs back to her side, begging his Ni-san to hang on. His dying sister whispers his name Cookie, telling him not to run as a monster looms over them. But he stands his ground to protect her, earning a final thought about how amazing he is. And even now, she manages a proud, reassuring smile for him, which only makes him curse his own powerlessness, screaming about having no magic to save her. So he offers himself instead, begging for the power to protect his sister no matter the cost, his eyes glowing with sheer desperation as he demands magic be given to him. And in that exact moment, a brilliant blue magic circle materializes on his hand, which he raises to completely freeze the monster in its tracks. His sister can only stare in absolute shock, not believing what she is seeing. And even Kuki himself is confused, wondering what on earth is happening to his body. As her spirit explains, she's transferred her power to him, unlocking the secret of his birthmark, telling him with her last breath that he can save the world if he just does not give up. And he feels an incredible surge of strength as the monster remains paralyzed before him, revealing she was holding a forbidden book from the archives to make this sacrifice possible. And a pillar of light erupts from her body, finalizing the transfer of power. This story then rewinds 5 years right back to the day the prophecy was announced, focusing on our actual main character, Ikuta Kuki, looking stunned in the crowd while everyone around him is losing their minds cheering for the saviors on screen. And he gets knocked to the ground in the chaos, completely bewildered, checking his phone to see the date is exactly 5 years before the end of the world. Kuki stares at his phone, realizing he has actually been sent back 5 years. Around him, people are buzzing about the prophecy, half believing the world's about to end. But they quickly brush it off, putting all their faith in the 7 saviors. Just then, the saviors pop up on the big screen, and the crowd goes absolutely wild, kicking things off with savior number 1, Sagitetsu, humanity's strongest man. Next up is number 2, Jumanseijuru, a magnate who basically rules the world. Then there is number 3, Egami Himka, the so-called queen of the underworld. Followed by number 4, Kawayuki Rampo, a beast with apparently endless magic power. Number 5 is Ashiya Kei, the ultimate brain who supposedly knows everything. And number 6 is Suzaki Arori, the youngest magical genius in history. Finally, we have the pretty boy idol Araki Leo rounding out this all-star team. This crowd is completely sold on this lineup, totally convinced it is all true. And they start celebrating like they have already won the war. But Kuki just stands there wondering how no one else remembers the horror of that day, flashing back to the blood and terror of the failed defense. His thoughts are cut short by a sudden call from his mom, who is frantically telling him that Miki has just collapsed. He immediately rushes over to the Takamine Medical Center, bursting through the door and screaming for his big sister, only to find his mom standing by her bedside looking worried. His mom explains Miki just collapsed, but the doctors cannot find anything physically wrong with her. Kuki realizes this is a new development. This definitely did not happen in the original timeline. He immediately connects her condition to the forbidden magic she used to send him back, so he heads straight to his old high school to find some answers. He remembers a specific book from the school library that might have the information he needs, and after a quick search, he pulls the exact volume from the shelf. Inside, he finds a page describing regression magic, an ancient and forbidden spell, which explains that as payment for its power, the caster falls into an eternal sleep. It all clicks. His sister sacrificed herself to send him back, but the book is missing key details. His research is interrupted by a couple of classmates, Iwashida and Kasano, fanboying over the saviors. One of them is dreaming about becoming the strongest sorcerer just to get all the girls, while his buddy points out that savior number 7 is the real celebrity with millions of followers. Kuki just stares at the popular savior merch everyone is carrying around, knowing the truth behind the public's obsession with these so-called heroes. He remembers how 5 years ago, everyone blindly believed the prophecy, completely unaware that the 7 saviors were utterly powerless against the actual threat. A wave of panic hits him as he realizes the same horrific future is on track to repeat itself. Thinking of his sister's sacrifice, he knows he is the only one who can change their fate. Just as he is stealing his resolve, a voice calls out from behind him. And it is Iwashida back to mock him for being a magic otaku whose only friends are books. Iwashida snatches the book right out of his hands, mocking him for still reading about magic, and he keeps on taunting Kuki about having 0 magic power to his name. So since Kuki loves it so much, they decide to take things outside, where Iwashida offers to show him what a real magic crest looks like. Kuki immediately recognizes the glowing sigil as a skill activation, remembering how this bully's gravity magic used to force him to his knees. But this time, Kuki just casually sidesteps the entire attack. He does not even flinch, leaving the bully completely confused, because his skill should have absolutely flattened Kuki on the spot. Iwashida is losing his mind, yelling that a magic 0 should not even be standing. Seeing his buddy's magic fail, Kasano decides to jump in with his own thorn attack. Except Kuki dodges that too, moving way faster than they can even see. Our boy knows exactly what is happening. Their magic is useless against his overwhelmingly higher power level. Turns out all that new magic power also gave him a massive physical stat boost. It all clicks. This is the strength his sister gave him through her regression magic. He remembers her mentioning a mark, and right on cue, a blue magic circle appears on his hand. These bullies are a little freaked out but decide to attack him anyway, calling his new mark gross. Cookie just calmly stands there, wondering what exactly his new skill does, as it automatically targets the magic book Kasano is using to cast his spell, and a system window reveals his skill is gravity manipulation, and he has just absorbed the Thorn user's power. Cookie is suddenly pulled into a bizarre digital space, completely lost as to what is happening. And a disembodied voice welcomes him to the library, introducing itself as the librarian. A silver-haired person then appears, calmly explaining that this entire realm is his new skill. Our boy is still trying to process that this whole surreal experience is his own ability, and it is a pretty pathetic library considering there are only 2 books on the shelf. Those 2 books immediately float down to him as he watches in total confusion. While the librarian starts the tutorial revealing that his acquired skills manifest as books here, Cookie holds the 2 tomes, one glowing with a red sigil and the other with a green one. Clicks instantly. The colors perfectly match the magic crest of the 2 bullies. This librarian confirms he's acquired their skills, which will now be stored in his personal archive. Cookie gets incredibly hyped, realizing if he just reads these, he can copy their powers. Better yet, the librarian explains this is his mental world, so time outside is completely frozen. He can basically train in here for as long as he wants without losing a single second. Meanwhile, back in reality, the 2 idiots are still stuck mid-attack waiting for him. This librarian does warn him that the reading process might be difficult or even painful. But Cookie does not hesitate for a moment, placing his hand on the first book to begin. His sheer eagerness seems to catch the librarian a little off guard. For a bookworm like Cookie, this is basically heaven, a private library where he can read and gain powers. He is already imagining filling this place with countless books and becoming absolutely unstoppable. This librarian tries to mention there is a limit to the skills, but Cookie is way too lost in his power fantasy to listen. With a satisfied smirk, Cookie finishes his speed reading session inside the library. And the librarian cannot believe he has done already, but our boy confirms he has downloaded all the data, his eyes glowing intensely as he declares he now knows their skills inside and out. Back in reality, not a single second has passed for the 2 completely frozen bullies, who are still mid-panic demanding to know why their magic has 0 effect on him. Cookie just marvels at the time stop flexing the new crest on his hand. And right on cue, the gravity manipulation skill activates with a golden glow, which he immediately uses to defy gravity, lifting himself off the ground. His opponents, however, get launched straight into the sky screaming their heads off, and Cookie admits he was always jealous, convinced he could use their powers way better. See, the bully only ever used gravity to crush people, but reversing it is also an option. So now the 2 idiots are just flailing helplessly as they fly towards the clouds. Iwishida is absolutely losing his mind, staring down at the rapidly shrinking school, and he is so terrified, in fact, that he literally wets his pants mid-flight. But Cookie's not done activating the second stolen skill with a green glow, as massive thorny vines erupt from the ground, snaring the airborne duo. They can only yell uselessly while they are left dangling high above the schoolyard. And with a clenched fist, Cookie officially claims their powers as his own. He then enhances the thorn magic much to their absolute terror, only for the vines to sprout harmless little flowers, adding insult to injury. Cookie looks down at the pathetic bullies, telling them their skills were completely wasted on them. With a new cold resolve in his eyes, he is ready for whatever comes next. And looking at the crest on his hand, he thanks his sister for this second chance. He vows to stop the future that the so-called fake saviors were powerless to prevent, and he swears on his life that he will save his sister from her eternal sleep. But just as he is making his solemn vow, a hand suddenly lands on his shoulder. It is Savior number 7, Araki Leo, laughing as he asks who exactly Cookie is calling fake. Cookie is completely floored, wondering what a world-famous idol is doing at his school. Leo casually explains he sensed some weird magic and came to check out the slander himself. And, of course, the guy is live-streaming the whole thing, offering to forgive Cookie for a slip of the tongue. He holds out his phone, demanding our boy apologize to his massive audience. But Cookie stands his ground, stating it was not a mistake. They absolutely cannot save the world. He flashes back to the horrors of the original timeline, remembering the chaos and destruction. Calling the saviors nothing more than scum who only know how to hurt people, Leo is visibly taken aback by the sheer conviction in Cookie's voice. Kuki gets right in his face, yelling that he is no savior at all, leaving the two of them locked in a tense, silent standoff in the middle of the schoolyard. Suddenly, Kuki's expression shifts from anger to pure shock, as if he has realized something. Leo's friendly idol mask drops completely, revealing a dark, menacing glare as he calls Kuki pathetic. Unfazed, Kuki just stares back, confirming that he meant every single word. Kuki doubles down, telling the so-called hero he absolutely will not save the world, and he screams right in the idol's face that he is no savior at all, which seems to be the final straw as Leo's hand starts glowing with power. A massive golden aura erupts around him, and he asks if Kuki is actually challenging him to a fight, his friendly mask completely gone as he calls our boy's defiance pathetic. Kuki is sweating bullets, finally feeling the overwhelming magic power of a real savior. Leo prepares to unleash an attack, but suddenly stops himself because a couple of fangirls have spotted him and are screaming his name. A crowd starts to gather, completely starstruck that a celebrity is on campus. This public attention is clearly annoying for Leo, who just wanted to throw down. He decides to back off, warning Kuki that he just got lucky this time. Then he flips the idol switch right back on, happily offering autographs to his adoring fans. Kuki is left standing there, realizing that if that fight had actually happened, he would have been toast. Just as he is processing his near-death experience, he senses another attack coming his way. And a fireball whips right past his head, narrowly missing him. The source is a pink-haired girl waving from across the yard, calling out his name. She runs over, apologizing for her overthrown ball and asking if he is okay. Turns out this is Kane Momo, a top-tier student from the advanced class and a future certified sorcerer. These certified sorcerers are basically government-sanctioned elites who handle monster-slaying missions. And getting that certification is no joke, since the exam's passing rate is less than 1%. Sometime later, Kuki and Momo are walking through the school halls, and she is pretty impressed that he handled those two bullies all by himself. She is sharp too, correctly guessing he was a magic zero until very recently, and Kuki just plays it cool, confirming he has awakened a new skill. Turns out, she is glad they got what was coming to them, finding the whole thing refreshing. He remembers she was one of the only people who was ever nice to him, wondering if she'd believe his story. So he decides to test the waters, asking her what she thinks about the 7 saviors. Unfortunately for him, she is a total superfan whose dream is to be just like them. Yeah. That is a hard no. She'd never believe the truth about her idols right now. Momo then gets a bright idea, suggesting he should get his new power level measured. Kuki is definitely interested in seeing just how much his stats have jumped. She leads him to the advanced class's exclusive training room with a fancy measuring device, explaining it also lets you fight virtual monsters, which is perfect for her own exam prep. This gets Kuki thinking, if he wants people to listen, he needs to be stronger than the saviors. He needs undeniable proof of his power so they will finally believe his warnings. Without warning, he suddenly grabs Momo and hoists her up towards the machine's console. But a teacher immediately steps in, telling them this area is off limits to regular students. Kuki does not back down, instead declaring he wants to be admitted to the advanced class. This teacher is completely baffled since he remembers this kid being dead last in magic power. And to top it off, Kuki announces he is also taking the certified sorcerer exam in 1 month. Momo jumps in to defend him, convincing the teacher to let them measure their power levels together. This teacher reluctantly agrees, letting them use the advanced training machine just this once. They are immediately transported into a virtual forest, which Momo explains is a perfect dungeon simulation. She asks the teacher what level the monster is, and he confirms he set it to a simple E rank. A tiny bird monster appears, and Momo explains that fighting it will automatically calculate their magic power. She confidently steps up to go first, charging a powerful fireball in her hand. With a happy little cheer, she launches her attack, completely engulfing the creature in flames, except the monster emerges totally unharmed, leaving Momo stunned that her attack did nothing. That is because the cute little bird suddenly transforms into a massive, terrifying rank monster. This teacher panics from the control room, admitting he might have accidentally set the difficulty way too high. But instead of being scared, Momo gets incredibly hyped, realizing this is her chance to prove she is a rank. This monster immediately unleashes a volley of fireballs and attack far beyond any student's level. It lands before them, and the teacher's voice confirms this is an opponent no student can handle. This beast swipes with its massive talons, forcing Momo to desperately dive out of the way. She screams for the teacher to hit the emergency exit, realizing this is seriously dangerous. Unfortunately, the safety device is not working, and a sinister voice declares it will not let them escape. Momo is already injured and on the ground, completely out of options and wondering what to do. This monster looms over them, its eyes glowing as it says they have no choice but to die here. It then divvies straight down, aiming to finish them off with a single devastating strike. Momo can only watch in pure terror, knowing there is absolutely no way she can avoid this. Just as the monster divvies for the final blow, Momo gets blasted backward, completely defenseless. But Kuki swoops in using his gravity magic, casually asking if she is okay. This rank beast is not letting up though and immediately circles back for another attack run. So Kuki calmly states they will just have to beat it, which makes Momo absolutely lose her mind. Suddenly, time seems to freeze as he is pulled back into his mental library, where the librarian pops in for a perfectly timed lecture on advanced skill usage. Turns out, he can combine the skills he has copied, a technique called addition of magic, which is a high-risk move that doubles both the MP cost and the overall power output. Back in the real world, Momo is yelling that he cannot possibly win with just gravity manipulation, but Kuki just holds up his hand as both the gravity and vine crest begin to glow. Momo can only stare in absolute disbelief at what she is seeing. He activates both skills at once, combining the powers of gravity and plant control. And as the monster divvies, Kuki reaches out a single hand to meet the attack head-on. This beast seems to realize way too late that something is very, very wrong, because with a flick of his wrist, he freezes the rank monster solid in midair. Then, with a determined look, he prepares to unleash the second part of his combo. As a massive thorny vine erupts from the ground, rocketing towards the helpless target, it skewers the monster clean through a perfect one-shot kill, and the rank beast dissolves into data completely obliterated by the combined attack. This simulation ends, leaving Kuki totally drained but victorious, admitting he is more tired than he expected. Momo is absolutely losing her mind, realizing he one-shot that thing by combining two different skills. Kuki, on the other hand, is completely wiped out from the massive monocost. Meanwhile, a smug-looking blonde kid from the advanced class peeks out of the control room, and it turns out he's the one who hacked the machine to kill Kuki for messing with his bully friends. His jaw hits the floor when he sees Kuki actually survived and beat the rank monster. Just then, the teacher rushes in, frantically checking to see if they are both still alive. He's just as shocked as everyone else, confirming Kuki really did take it down in one hit. This result screen is even crazier, showing Momo's impressive score while Kuki's just says error. This teacher has never seen a measurement result break the machine before, leaving him totally stunned. Kuki then turns to the lurking saboteur, casually asking if he was the one who tampered with the device. Before the guy can answer, a furious Momo grabs him by the collar, accusing him of trying to murder them. He tries to play dumb, but Kuki points out that his hacking skill should make fixing the machine easy. Right? As the kid gets nervous, Kuki's hand begins to glow, preparing to copy his skill. Forced into a corner, the saboteur puts his hands on the console to fix it. And just like that, a system window confirms Kuki has acquired the electronic hack skill. Back in his mental library, our boy gives a satisfied smirk knowing this new power will be useful. This teacher is not letting this go, grabbing the kid and telling him he is coming to the staff room. He drags the pathetic hacker away who is still trying to deny everything even as he is being hauled off. With the immediate drama over, the teacher gives Kuki a long, suspicious look. Kuki just plays it cool, scratching his head with a sheepish smile like he did not just break reality. With his spot in the advanced class secured, the clock is officially ticking only 30 days until the sorcerer exam. This teacher introduces Kuki to his new classmates, asking them to welcome him. As he bows, the other students are already whispering about the infamous Magic Zero joining their ranks. One girl immediately puts him on the spot, asking which of the 7 saviors he admires the most. This whole class seems to be mocking him, wondering why a powerless kid would even bother trying. Kuki just thinks back to Leo's threatening face, remembering the truth about the so-called heroes, and he bluntly tells the class he does not admire a single one of them. He then drops a bombshell, declaring that if they leave everything to the saviors, the world will perish. Kuki insists that everyone, especially the talented mages in this room, has to get stronger for themselves. If they all step up, he says, maybe they can actually prevent the end of the world, leaving Momo stunned. He finishes his speech by vowing to become stronger than anyone so they can save the world in 5 years. Of course, some jerk in the back is recording the whole thing, captioning it, "A crazy person joined the class." This student immediately uploads the video, turning Kuki's heartfelt plea into a public spectacle. It instantly starts trending under sarcastic tags like Seventh Savior Love, and within moments, his passionate declaration becomes a viral meme. People in the comments are even ironically dubbing him the next Seventh Savior. Even the bullies he dealt with earlier are having a great time laughing at his expense. His face is suddenly all over the internet, with random people on the train watching the clip. It seems like the entire city is watching and judging his bold announcement, including a mysterious old man who seems to be taking this very, very seriously. Meanwhile, Cookie's viral speech has reached some very important people, including a ridiculously buff man with a massive scar, and it is being reviewed by a high-ranking official who seems to be taking this crazy person very seriously. Cookie's declaration that the saviors will fail to save the world has left his entire class completely speechless, and his plea for them to stop relying on heroes and get stronger together is not exactly winning him any friends. Even Momo, his one real supporter, is totally floored by his sudden passionate outburst. He finishes by vowing to become stronger than anyone, which is a bold claim for a former Magic Zero. This teacher quickly steps in to break the awkward silence, reminding everyone to prepare for next month's exam. But the damage is done, and the rest of the class just stares at Cookie with pure, unadulterated contempt. As the teacher leaves, he cannot stop thinking about how this kid was a total nobody just a few days ago. He makes a call to report on the situation, detailing Cookie's immeasurable power and his mythical ideas. Turns out he is reporting directly to the old man from before, who listens intently to the news about Cookie's heresy. Instead of punishing him, the old man orders the teacher to write Cookie a recommendation for the sorcerer exam. After the call, he turns to someone else in the room, asking for their opinion on this interesting development. He is speaking to none other than Sagitetsu, the #1 ranked savior in the world. Tetsu, however, looks completely bored by the entire conversation. He dismisses it entirely, stating he could not care less what some random student believes. As he walks away, he casually freezes the armrest of a chair just to show off his power. This old man, identified as #2, Juman Sujiro, just smirks at his colleague's ice-cold attitude. Back with Cookie, the adrenaline has worn off, and he is now sweating with pure regret. He sits alone on a bench, realizing he probably should not have blurted out the truth to a room full of hero worshippers. This fallout from his speech is immediate, with rumors spreading all over school as students actively avoid him. He gets it though. Before regressing, he was a hero worshipper just like everyone else. Suddenly, a fireball zips right past his head, forcing him to duck for cover on the bench. He looks up completely startled by the sudden attack, and it is just Momo casually asking why he is so down while twirling a flame on her finger. She plops down beside him, calling him an interesting guy for going from zero to hero to public enemy #1. Turns out his speech actually inspired her, making her realize they cannot just rely on the saviors. Of course, she tries to lighten the mood, questioning if the world is really ending anytime soon. Cookie shuts that down with a dead serious confirmation, which completely shocks her. He explains that becoming a licensed mage is the only way anyone will ever take his warning seriously. Hearing his resolve, Momo gets a determined look in her eyes, declaring that in that case, they will just have to pass the upcoming exam together. Cookie cracks a smile. She promises to treat him to ramen to celebrate when they do. Later on, our boy heads over to a large medical center, where he stands at the bedside of a girl who is unconscious in a hospital room. He tells her he is taking the exam, explaining there are only 4 years left until the apocalypse. This timeline is tight, meaning he absolutely has to pass this year's exam to have a chance. With renewed determination, he clenches his fist, knowing this is his only shot. This scene shifts, marking the end of the day's drama and setting the stage for his next big challenge. With his mind made up, Cookie knows he only gets one shot at this exam. A month flies by, and it is finally time for the test at the Ministry of Magic's Grand Auditorium. As he walks through the halls, the air is thick with tension from all the other hopefuls, who immediately recognize him as the cringy guy from that viral video mocking him under their breath. Just as the whispers start to get to him, a familiar hand lands on his shoulder, and it is Momo giving him a much-needed pep talk to relax and just do his best. He cracks a smile, feeling a bit more confident with his one supporter by his side. With his resolve hardened, our boy is ready to face whatever they throw at him. This exam room is dead silent, filled with rows of students all laser-focused on the test. Stage 1 is a written exam, and poor Momo is already looking like her brain is about to melt. Cookie, however, spots the proctor's computer at the front of the room, and a devious plan begins to form. Deciding to work smarter, not harder, his hand begins to glow with his newest skill. He activates electronic hack because why study when you can just download the answers? After the test, everyone gathers in the main hall to check the results board. Momo's jaw absolutely hits the floor when she sees the rankings. Cookie casually glances at his own name in third place, knowing full well he cheated his way there. Meanwhile, Momo is having a full-blown panic attack over her 1015th rank since only the top 30 actually pass. He just calmly tells her not to worry, completely confident that she is going to make the cut. This whole written test was just a preliminary round to weed people out, with the real challenge being the practical exam. Elsewhere, a mysterious student is seen studying alone, hinting at some serious competition down the line. Elsewhere, the mysterious student from before is monologuing about perfecting his bind skill, and he seems pretty confident he's got a special move ready for this exam. Back in the auditorium, the remaining students are gathered for the next phase. It is time for Stage 2, a 100-person survival battle, and Cookie and Momo are in the same group. An official explains they will be fighting in a virtual field where getting knocked out means instant elimination, and only the top 10 scorers will move on to the final stage. He makes it crystal clear that this is where the vast majority of applicants are going to get cut. This pressure is on since 90% of the people in this room are about to fail. With a 15-minute time limit, the proctor snaps his fingers to begin the test. Cookie is suddenly enveloped in light as the virtual world materializes around him. He finds himself in a forest with a system window confirming the second round has started. Momo wastes zero time, cheerfully leaping away with a fiery aura to go hunt for points. She immediately unleashes a massive fireball on the first poor schmuck she finds. And just like that, one contestant is officially eliminated from the competition. While she is celebrating her first point, Cookie just notes how she is a natural-born fighter. Unfortunately, his reputation as a weakling has already made him a target for a trio of bullies. Cookie realizes that being underestimated means he is about to have a lot of challengers. One of the guys immediately fires off an adhesive bullet, telling him it is nothing personal. This sticky-looking magic flies straight for our boy, who looks completely unfazed, and he casually sidesteps the attack, leaving his opponent absolutely stunned. This next guy tries a smokescreen attack, hoping to blind him with a cloud of dark magic. But Cookie just stands there completely unfazed, leaving the bully wondering what is going on. So the third one activates Iron Form, deciding a good old-fashioned punch will do the trick, which our boy sees coming from a mile away. He catches the superpowered fist with one hand, completely nullifying the attack. And just like that, Cookie's system confirms he has copied all three of their skills. He thanks the trio for the free abilities, his hand glowing with a sinister green light. It is time to test out his own unique magic by summoning a massive man-eating plant that immediately swallows one of the bullies whole. With all three opponents eliminated, Cookie gives his new Thorn Master skill a thumbs up. Meanwhile, the proctors are watching this unfold, commenting on his truly abnormal power. This head proctor even wonders if he himself could land a hit on this kid. Just then, a new challenger steps onto the virtual battlefield. It is none other than Arakawa Ryo, the seventh savior, making a flashy entrance. This proctor announces a sudden rule change, catching Cookie's attention. Any student who lands a single hit on Ryo will automatically pass the exam. Turns out, this whole thing is just a publicity stunt for Ryo's channel to show off his power. He spreads his arms wide, arrogantly inviting everyone to try and fight him. Of course, he is just thinking of them as pawns to make him look good for the camera. These other students, however, see this as their one big chance and start teaming up for a comeback. Ryo smirks as the other students swarm him, sarcastically thinking how tough it is to be so popular. He immediately unleashes a massive wind attack, effortlessly blowing away a huge chunk of the competition. But the mysterious student from before blocks the blast with a thorn shield, catching Ryo's eye. This kid clearly has a history with the savior, flashing back to a time Ryo was acting like a total scumbag. In the memory, he is screaming that Ryo is not a real savior at all. Back in the present, he's just glad his thorn defense managed to hold up against that initial onslaught. Ryo changes his tune, deciding this special kid deserves his full condescending attention. This rest of the fodder can only watch in shock, realizing there is no way to even get close to him. Annoyed by the defiance, Ryo powers up a much more serious attack in his hand, and his wind blades slice through the air, shredding the thorn shield and drawing blood. This mysterious student grits his teeth, barely holding on against the overwhelming power. Cookie sees this unfold, realizing Ryo is carelessly catching other students in his attack zone. Just then, a pink-haired girl steps up, calling Ryo out for going way too hard on a bunch of students. He completely blows her off, telling her not to lecture him, so she retaliates with her own massive fire spell, trying to show him what a real hero does. Cookie just watches from the sidelines, calling her flashy fireball a useless circus trick. He is proven right a second later as Ryo's wind attack smacks her out of the air. This savior stands over her defeated body without a shred of remorse. This blatant abuse of power triggers a memory for Cookie of the girl in the hospital. And fueled by that rage, he finally makes his move, launching himself directly at Ryo. Cookie closes the distance in a flash, his entire body radiating raw power. Ryo, meanwhile, is busy monologuing over the girl he just beat about being a natural winner. This pink-haired student can only watch from the ground, completely out of the fight for now. Cookie instantly combines his new skills, summoning a thorny vine from his arm. This sudden power-up completely catches Ryo off guard. As Cookie unleashes a smokescreen to obscure his movements, engulfing the arrogant savior in a massive cloud of dark magic, Ryo stands there confused, wondering what kind of cheap trick this is. Before he can react, the thorny vine whips out of the smoke and smacks him right across the chest. This hit is so solid it actually draws blood, stunning the so-called hero. Cookie just points, coldly confirming that he landed a hit. From the ground, the pink-haired girl is in awe that he has already mastered a skill he just copied. She can only wonder how much stronger our boy is going to get. Ryo, however, is absolutely losing his mind over getting hit in the face. He completely snaps, screaming that Cookie is not leaving this place alive. In his rage, he activates a summoning skill, opening a dark vortex in the sky. A massive, electrified, tiger-like creature begins to emerge from the portal, which Ryo proudly introduces as his mythical beast, Fuma. Cookie immediately recognizes that this summon is on a whole other level of power. Elsewhere on the battlefield, another student is getting wrecked by a giant griffin-like beast. Elsewhere, another student is monologuing about his rare summoning skill, which he claims is fundamentally different from other weaker summons. He has got a real psycho smile going, boasting that his skill is in the top 0.0001% of all abilities. His three-eyed tiger beast roars, ready to absolutely demolish its opponent. This other student quickly activates Iron Transformation to try and tank the hit, but the attack plows right through him, sending him flying and drawing blood. He cannot believe the insane power difference between their summons. This blonde summoner just casually strolls up to his defeated opponent and smugly informs him that the next attack will be his last. His beast looms over the poor guy, ready to finish the job for good. Seeing this, the pink-haired girl starts panicking, screaming for Cookie to run away from Ryo's summon. Even the mysterious thorn user knows they are all about to be wiped out at this rate. But Cookie's eyes just glow as the world around him seems to glitch out, and we flash back to him in a much calmer setting. A man in a suit is advising him on the application of bind skill. This memory is from 3 weeks before the exam, with Cookie looking pretty confused. This man explains that instead of just adding skills together, it is possible to multiply them. This is a total light bulb moment for our boy who had never considered such a thing. This concept is simple. Instead of 10 plus 10, think 10 times 10. If he can pull it off, he can create a spell far more powerful than just combining two skills. Back in the flashback, Cookie realizes this multiplication concept is the key to getting way stronger. And even though his advisor says he will not need a technique this advanced for the exam, our boy is all in. He's completely fired up, determined to master this new power before the big day arrives. This first step, according to his mentor, is to read the books for 2 different skills at the same time and then mentally forge them into a brand new ability from scratch. Cookie closes his eyes, focusing on the very idea of creating a new skill, and he tries to combine gravity manipulation with Thorn User, his body glowing with power. But it is a lot harder than it sounds, even with the 2 skill books right in front of him. He visualizes the 2 powers intertwining, gravity and thorns becoming one, but absolutely nothing happens, leaving him to throw his hands up in total frustration. His mentor just calmly explains that what he is attempting is a superhuman feat, because creating a new spell from scratch is basically entering the realm of the gods. We then flash forward to the present day, with that same man watching the exam unfold. Back in the past, Cookie had been training for 3 weeks straight with 0 results, and he was starting to worry that Ryo would crush both him and Momo if he could not figure it out. That is when he remembers he copied Momo's skill during the fight earlier, the same fireball he'd arrogantly dismissed as a useless circus trick. He flashes back to Ryo swatting her out of the sky like she was nothing, and in the present, Kuki clenches his fist, admitting he was wrong. Momo's skill is strong. He finally gets it. Because her fireball is so simple, it is actually incredibly versatile. Suddenly, Kuki feels a surge of heat in his chest as a new idea clicks into place. And he visualizes the two skills in his mind, finally understanding how to make them work together. With a new sense of confidence, he decides to go all in on this crazy new technique. A massive red aura erupts around him, signaling the start of his skill fusion, and his eyes glow with power as he focuses every ounce of his being into the spell. This energy continues to build even as Ryo's mythical beast watches on. Ryo cannot believe his eyes, wondering where this kid is pulling all this power from. Momo, however, looks on with a hopeful smile, believing in him completely. Kuki activates his bind skill, preparing to unleash the multiplied power. And as he raises his hand, the ground itself begins to break apart, levitating into the air. He has successfully combined gravity manipulation with Momo's fireball, creating a brand new spell he calls Meteor Shower Limit Break. Ryo just stares up at the sky, completely baffled by the rain of flaming rocks. He panics and screams at his beast Fuma to just blow the entire attack away. So the tiger beast unleashes a massive energy beam to intercept the meteors. These two attacks collide in a spectacular explosion of light and energy. But Kuki's meteors easily punch right through the beam, raining down and causing a massive explosion right on top of Fuma. Ryo can only shield his face, completely unable to accept what is happening. And amidst the fiery chaos, Kuki just stands there having completely overpowered the mythical beast. Meanwhile, Kuki's mentor watches the exam unfold on a monitor, noting how long it is taking. He is completely stunned when he sees the massive crater Kuki's attack left on the battlefield. Back on the ground, Momo gets to her feet, injured but clearly impressed by what just happened. Ryo and his mythical beast are both down for the count, completely overwhelmed by the meteor shower. Kuki smirks, telling Ryo this is the true potential of the loser skill he mocked earlier. Hearing him defend her, Momo is completely moved, her eyes welling up with tears. Kuki then lays into him, saying Ryo is not actually strong, he just relies on a powerful skill. Calling him out for being born with a silver spoon, he says Ryo never earned any of his power. Ryo's mind goes blank with rage, refusing to accept a single word of it. His eye glows as he internally screams that he is one of the chosen people, but Kuki just repeats his point that a strong skill does not make the user strong. Our boy calmly explains that there is no such thing as chosen or unchosen people. This completely breaks Ryo, who calls Kuki an idiot before flashing back to his childhood. The scene shifts to a 6-year-old Ryo enjoying a lavish steak dinner, looking like a little prince. He is dining with his incredibly wealthy and powerful-looking parents in a massive mansion. His mother tells him he is a special person who can have anything he wants, all because they are S-rank sorcerers. His father adds that if he desires something, he should just take it since everyone else is trash. Back in his head, Ryo admits this chosen one mentality was drilled into him from birth. A memory even shows him stepping on another kid to take his spot, a total bully in the making. His parents' toxic words echo through his mind, reinforcing that he can do anything because everyone else is beneath him. This chosen one mentality started early with him literally looking down on other kids at the playground. And once he awakened his powers, he had a massive mythical beast to back up his ego, which, of course, made him an instant celebrity among his classmates. Because awakening a 1-in-a-million skill basically confirmed he was born special, he even commanded his beast, Fuma, to show a posture of surrender to him just to prove his absolute dominance over a creature of immense power. And having a monster that huge at his beck and call was the ultimate power trip, reinforcing his belief that there was absolutely nothing he could not obtain. Meanwhile, that other blonde summoner is busy taunting the student he just flattened. And he pulls out a glowing potion, adding money to his list of unfair advantages. This remaining students can only watch trying to figure out who this new powerhouse is. As he chugs the entire potion right in front of his defeated opponent, he then tosses the bottle, explaining it is a super rare item you cannot just buy off the street. And with a psycho smile, he reveals its first effect is a full recovery, but the second effect is that it doubles his magic power. This guy on the ground is stunned, realizing it is a top-tier reinforcement item. This summoner just gloats that it is something a nobody could never afford. And since his magic is doubled, his beast Fuma's strength doubles right along with it. His opponent can only stare in absolute horror, completely outmatched, as the blonde sadistically asks if he has any fight left in him. Ryo, absolutely juiced from his potion, gets a psycho grin and declares the fight is over, and Momo can only watch in horror as the now doubled powerhouse targets Kuki. He orders his beast, Fuma, to slice Kuki into pieces until there is nothing left. But in a shocking twist, Fuma just stands there completely ignoring the command. Kuki watches this unfold, realizing something has just shifted in his favor. Ryo immediately starts losing his cool, screaming at his summon for not listening to him. Even throwing a kick while calling Fuma his dog and demanding obedience in a total meltdown. Unfortunately for him, the mythical beast turns and roars right back in his face. Ryo is completely stunned, unable to understand how his own skill could possibly defy him. Turns out, Kuki has a glowing skill book floating over his hand, revealing he copied the summon skill. This rich kid can only stare in disbelief as the pieces start clicking together. Because there is only one Fuma in the world, but now there are two masters who can control it. And the rule is simple. The beast follows the one with the stronger connection, which is now Kuki. Ryo finally puts it together that our boy has a copy-type skill, though he still looks smug about it. He tries to pull rank, yelling that Fuma should listen to him since they have been together for so long. But Kuki's thoughts reveal the difference. He actually believed in Fuma's strength. He explains that he could not connect with the beast after copying the skill. Until now. And just like that, Fuma has switched sides, now standing protectively in front of Kuki. Our boy points out that Ryo's little temper tantrum seems to have changed the beast's mind for good. A close-up on Fuma's glowing eye confirms it. The mythical beast has a new master. Ryo can only stare as his own mythical beast now stands protectively over Kuki. And our boy explains that Fuma left because Ryo only ever saw it as a tool. As a living being, Kuki says the beast has every right to choose who it serves. This sends Ryo into a full-blown tantrum, screaming for his summon to come back. But Kuki just reminds him of his own boast about having double the magic power. With that power now under new management, Fuma charges up a massive energy blast and unleashes a devastating wind's roar attack directly at its former master. This blast absolutely demolishes Ryo, who gets hit head-on with his own boosted power. He is sent tumbling through the air, completely overwhelmed by the attack, and lands in a heap, still muttering in disbelief as he crawls on the ground. Kuki walks over, his hand glowing as he demands an apology for his sister, Momo. Ryo just glares back, completely baffled by the request. So Kuki uses his gravity skill to force the guy's head to the ground, repeating the demand. Ryo can only scream in humiliation as his face is shoved right into the dirt. A system window then pops up, announcing his official elimination from the exam. Momo watches the entire thing unfold, her expression a mix of shock and awe, while the other students are just as stunned, unable to process what they just witnessed. With the fight finally over, Kuki suddenly collapses from complete exhaustion. And the next thing he knows, he is waking up in a bed, looking up at the ceiling. Momo is right there by his side, calling his name as he finally opens his eyes. Momo explains he's been out cold for a whole week due to magic power overuse, a steep price for that epic win. She gets all flustered, grabbing his hand and insisting she is the one who should be thanking him. With a huge blush, she gushes about how grateful she is that he protected her from Ryo. Kuki just looks a little taken aback by her intense and heartfelt gratitude. Before he suddenly sits up, remembering the exam and frantically asking what happened, Momo proudly flashes her new badge, announcing that she passed the exam safely. He gives her a genuine smile, clearly relieved and happy that she made it through. His mood immediately darkens, though, as he assumes he must have failed after collapsing. He clenches his fist in frustration, thinking he blew his chance to change the world. Momo looks at him completely baffled, wondering why he is talking like he was not part of the victory. She then breaks the good news. Of course, he passed the exam too. This scene then shifts to a massive official-looking building for the sorcerer inauguration ceremony. Kuki, now in his new uniform, thinks to himself that just passing is not good enough. His real goal was to take the #1 spot in the entire exam. Other students are already whispering about him, calling him the savior who took down Ryo. He internally confirms that by defeating one of the 7 saviors, he has made people start to distrust them. Kuki hopes this proves the so-called saviors are not invincible just as the ceremony officially begins. An announcer calls a special guest to the stage, hyping him up as the world's strongest, who turns out to be a stern-looking guy with blue hair named Sagitetsu, the legendary number 1. While some students are impressed by his aura, others are now skeptical, wondering if he is just another paper tiger like number 7. Sagitetsu immediately silences the room with a massive display of ice and lightning magic. And in a split second, the entire venue begins to freeze over with massive ice crystals, a show of power so immense that even Kuki is visibly impressed. Sagi begins his speech, saying the weakest ones talk the most and that enemies are just waiting for them to fail. He warns the new recruits that their powerful magic is nothing more than bait for monsters in the real world. This only way to survive, he tells them, is to become strong because their new lives demand it. He finishes by declaring that a certified sorcerer who is not strong is a complete joke, leaving the students stunned. After that incredibly intense ceremony, the scene shifts to a much calmer setting, where a pink-haired girl is completely freaking out having just met her idol number 1. She explains to a confused Kuki that Sagi is her role model before launching into a story from her childhood. Turns out, when she was little, she fell into a deep hole and was trapped all alone. And to make matters worse, she was cornered by 2 terrifying wolf-like monsters. One of the beasts lunges right at her, ready to tear her apart. And the poor kid can only scream in absolute terror thinking it is all over. But as she peeks through her fingers, she realizes the attack never came because the monster was flash-frozen into a giant ice sculpture right in front of her. Her savior was none other than a younger Sagitetsu who had dealt with the threat instantly. He then told her that if she becomes strong, she will never have to cry again. Back in the present, she declares that is the moment she decided to become a sorcerer who could save people just like him. Kuki just listens to her heartfelt story with a small, understanding smile. After her story, the pink-haired girl turns the question back on Kuki, asking why he became a sorcerer, and our boy drops a bombshell of an answer to stop the end of the world. She immediately connects this to his earlier claim that the 7 saviors cannot save anyone. And in a wild guess, she wonders if maybe, just maybe, Kuki came from the future, though she quickly laughs it off saying it is just a joke and he is just strong because of his skill. Kuki, however, knows she hit the nail on the head, remembering he was supposed to die when the world first ended. He accidentally says this out loud, which totally freaks her out until he tries to backtrack. But then he gets serious, asking her to listen to him without laughing. This look on his face is so intense that she realizes he is dead serious, asking if the world is really going to be destroyed. With a grim expression, Kuki simply confirms that it is. She presses further, asking if he has actually seen it and if even the legendary number 1 is powerless to stop it. A grim flashback shows the hellscape he remembers with powerful sorcerers lying defeated. Kuki explains that it is impossible to face that future alone, which is why he needs comrades. He looks directly at her, emphasizing the word comrades. He then tells her she is the first person he has ever told, officially making her his first ally. She's completely flustered but incredibly happy to be trusted with such a huge secret. She then asks a pretty smart question. Why not just tell everyone about the regression to get more believers? Kuki explains that regression is an ancient and obscure magic that almost no one knows about. And more importantly, if the wrong people found out, his sister Momo could become a target. Understanding the stakes, she gets a determined look and asks what their plan is from here on out. Kuki clenches his fist, absolutely set on getting strong enough to achieve his goal, believing that if he keeps gathering comrades, they can actually change the future. Sometime later, their new life as certified sorcerers officially begins. And as it turns out, Kuki and his new pink-haired ally have been assigned to the same team. Their first mission takes them to the edge of a massive crater, a dungeon known as a hole. A couple of senior sorcerers are leading the group, asking if it is their first time doing this for real. Kuki admits to himself that while he has done virtual dungeons, this is his first time against actual monsters. The seniors try to calm their nerves, promising it is just a beginner-level dungeon and to stick close. Both rookies look a little tense but agree to the plan, ready to follow their lead. Without wasting another second, the muscular senior jumps straight down into the pit. This rest of the team follows him, descending into the darkness of the C-rank dungeon. Inside, the seniors immediately start clearing out swarms of bat-like monsters, which is standard procedure for training rookies. They watch and learn from the veterans first. This bandana-wearing senior notes that there are a surprising number of them, though. He then tells the rookies to handle a few stragglers that got past, a perfect little test of their skills. Kuki instantly summons a thorny vine whip as his ally powers up a fire spell, and they both unleash their attacks on the incoming monsters without hesitation. This display earns them a nod of approval from the senior, who is impressed by their spirit. This other veteran advises them to take their time and get used to real combat slowly. Kuki, however, thinks to himself that he does not have time to take it slow after coming this far. Kuki's thorn whip and his ally's fireball make short work of the remaining monsters, and his new friend is cheering him on while the seniors give a nod of approval, looking pretty impressed. As the monsters fall, Kuki feels their magic flow into him, a classic level-up mechanic. But he is already frustrated, realizing these C-rank mobs give practically 0 experience points. Just then, the dungeon starts to collapse, forcing them to climb back to the surface. And once they are out, the hole seals itself shut as his partner celebrates their first successful mission. This senior asks how she feels, and she is just thrilled to have made it through safely. Kuki, however, immediately asks if they can tackle a higher-level dungeon next, a sudden request that clearly catches his new ally completely off guard. This muscular senior admits Kuki's skills are impressive, but there is a catch. He warns that raw power means nothing without real-world experience against tougher enemies. Kuki just quietly accepts the lecture, though he is obviously not satisfied with taking things slow. Later, the two rookies are grabbing a bite to eat after a long day of grinding, and Kuki chews on a burger, admitting to himself that the seniors have a point. A dark thought crosses his mind. As he remembers the absolute horrors from the future, knowing his current level is a joke against them, his friend explains that the sorcerer world is a strict hierarchy where missions are assigned by rank, and she can tell he is still getting impatient even though he understands the rules. He then drops the timeline on her 4 years and 10 months until the apocalypse, and he has a to-do list. His first priority, he declares, is to gather more trustworthy allies just like her. His new ally just listens while munching on her food, taking it all in. Kuki lays out his second objective. He needs to gain status and become a leader people will actually follow. Third, he has to copy as many useful skills as he can, like defensive magic to protect everyone. He also needs healing abilities, planning to build a whole arsenal of copied powers for the apocalypse. She looks a little stunned by the sheer scale of his plan, asking what his fourth goal is. His final objective, he says, is to get strong enough to beat the threat that even number 1 could not handle. Kuki slams his fist down in frustration, realizing grinding low-rank dungeons will never get him there in time. His friend tries to offer a suggestion, seeing how desperate he is getting. And she mentions a rumor that becoming one of the 7 saviors lets you skip ranks and go straight to SS class. This immediately gets his attention, though she admits she has no clue how someone would even do that. A new plan forms in his mind. If a savior can recommend someone, maybe he can get one of them on his side. Meanwhile, the 7 saviors themselves are holding a meeting at a ridiculously long table. Number 5, Ashiya Hakaru kicks things off by asking what is on the agenda. Number 2, Juman Seijiru reveals the topic of discussion is none other than the rookie Kuki. Number 4, Kyoki Ranbu scoffs that he is just the kid who beat up Ryo. Juman explains that Kuki used his thorn skill, but then displayed a completely different ability later. This gets number 3, Iggy Himka, to wonder if he actually possesses multiple skills. While number 6, Suzaki Arari, could not care less, Juman confirms that is impossible for a normal person. This group then turns to the head of the table, asking number 1, Sagitetsu, for his opinion. Sagi does not answer with words. He just stands up and summons 2 glowing ice daggers ready for action. But before the meeting can escalate, Kuki himself appears in the doorway, crashing the party. Every single one of the saviors is completely blindsided by the rookie's sudden appearance. Sagi, still holding his ice daggers, just glares at the kid with an unreadable expression. He immediately recognizes Kuki and demands to know how in the world he got past their electronic lock. Kuki simply reveals a glowing magic circle on his hand, implying he used yet another skill to get in. These other saviors realize he is now using a lightning ability, wondering what he could possibly want. Our boy looks them dead in the eye and announces he's come to ask for a favor. Number 2, Juman seems to be the only one who is more intrigued than annoyed by this. Kuki then makes his absolutely insane request. He wants them to let him join the 7 saviors. Number 4, Kaiwuki completely loses it, shocked by the sheer nerve of this rookie. Juman calmly asks if Kuki believes he deserves the spot just because he happened to defeat the last guy. Number 5 then calls him out, reminding him he is the one who claimed the saviors could not save anyone. Kuki explains that becoming a savior is the fastest way to skip ranks and challenge high-level dungeons. Juman acknowledges that the rank skipping system for saviors is, in fact, a real thing. But he points out that even Saga took half a year to reach S rank while Kuki's been licensed for a few days. Kuki clenches his fist, insisting that he does not have time and needs to get stronger fast. This just pisses Kaiwookie off, who gets in Kuki's face for being so arrogant after one little win. He lectures him that sorcerers are promoted over time by grinding dungeons, not by asking for handouts. Kyuki then powers up his fist to beat some sense into him, but Juman tells him to wait. Juman recalls that Kuki also tamed Ryo's divine beast, theorizing that he might be able to copy other people's skills. Juman's theory hits a little too close to home, and Kuki cannot quite hide his surprise, which sends Kyuki into a rage, refusing to believe a skill-copying ability could even exist. While the other saviors realize it is probably not a great idea to show off their powers in front of this kid, so Juman politely tells him to get lost before he can swipe any of their top-tier skills, and Kuki realizes his plan to just copy a savior's power on the spot has officially failed, forcing him to switch gears and unleash what he calls his final strategy, which involves him powering up like a Super Saiyan, his hair turning blue as lightning crackles around him. A sudden burst of magical energy that catches every single savior completely off guard, leaving Kuki looking like a totally different person with this new intense aura. And Kyuki, assuming a fight is about to break out, immediately rushes to intercept him. But instead of throwing a punch, Kuki pulls a full 180 and gives a deep respectful bow, spouting some nonsense about how their scolding has inspired him to train harder, even thanking Kaiwookie for the lecture, which leaves the big guy utterly speechless. And with that, Kuki turns and walks away with a smug little strut, knowing he played his cards perfectly because Kaiwookie took the bait and is following him out. Because it turns out Kaiwookie's one and only weakness is a soft spot for polite, hardworking juniors, a personality Kuki admits is not really his style, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. And just as planned, Kaiwookie stops him asking why he is so desperate for power. So Kuki puts on his most serious face, ready to spin a sob story, explaining that his older sister has collapsed and is currently lying in a hospital bed. Kuki spins a tale about wanting to be a sorcerer his sick sister can be proud of, and Kyuki, a sucker for family drama, is literally crying. Our boy even manages to squeeze out a few crocodile tears to really sell the performance. This big guy is so moved, he grabs Kuki's shoulders, promising to personally give him special training. This training takes them to a massive arena where Kyuki reveals his signature skill is creating barriers. Of course, Kuki already knew this, having researched all the saviors to specifically copy Kyuki's defensive power. He knows a top-tier barrier is exactly what he needs to protect people when the apocalypse hits. Kyuki gets into a stance, ready to demonstrate his ability in a skill versus barrier test. He summons a giant glowing monolith from the ground, calling it the Wall of Resolve. This challenge is simple enough. He just tells Kuki to try and attack it. Kuki activates his iron form skill, winding up for a serious punch. He smashes his fist right into the wall with everything he has got and is immediately shocked by the result of his own attack. A massive recoil sends him flying backward through the air, completely caught off guard. Kyuki explains the wall reflects all damage back to the attacker, meaning you have to endure the pain to break it. Kuki realizes it is a brutal test of attrition, but Kyuki insists he is not lying. This prize is worth it, though if he breaks it, Kyuki will take him on S-rank dungeon raids. Faced with a seemingly impossible task, Kuki decides to pull out another ace, his bind skill. He fuses his divine beast Fuemo with a fireball spell, summoning a massive, roaring flame tiger. Kyuki is absolutely floored, having no idea what kind of insane skill he is witnessing. He realizes Kuki is fusing two separate abilities as the Flame Tiger charges up a massive attack. This Flame Tiger unleashes a massive beam, completely vaporizing the Wall of Resolve, leaving Kyuki absolutely stunned that his ultimate defense was shattered in a single blow. Kuki braces himself for the massive recoil damage he was warned about, but then realizes he is completely unharmed, wondering why the reflection did not trigger. Turns out the wall's reflection only works if you do not one-shot it, a bluff to stop people from going all out. Thoroughly impressed, Kyuki admits the rookie has officially earned his respect. Kuki can barely contain his excitement, knowing his master plan is falling perfectly into place. Kyuki then activates a magic circle, ready to officially pass on his skill, and our boy's eyes light up as the copy process begins. He confirms the transfer was a success, proudly announcing he has copied Absolute Barrier. Kyuki is happy to share, smugly adding that a copy could never surpass the original, of course. But then he gets serious, asking why Cookie said the saviors could not save the world and if he distrusts the Ministry of Magic. A dark memory flashes through Kyoki's mind, showing him surrounded by fallen comrades. Cookie bluntly admits that he cannot trust them either, which clearly surprises the senior. He explains that something is off with the ministry and there might even be a traitor among them. Just as he is making this accusation, the scene takes a dark turn. Keiwuki suddenly coughs up a massive amount of blood, completely out of nowhere. Cookie is horrified, having no idea what is causing his sudden collapse. At that exact moment, the head of the Ministry of Magic is also shown covered in blood, and we learn this is the very man who used his future sight to prophesize the world's end. It turns out the head of the ministry is the one who prophesies the end of the world, and he is also the guy who personally designated the 7 saviors to stop it, which makes it a little awkward when he is revealed to be the one who just assassinated Kyoki. Cookie is in absolute shock, having just watched his new mentor get taken down. Kyoki lies on the floor, completely paralyzed and unable to defend himself. This head raises his bloody sword to finish the job right in front of the rookie. But Cookie reacts instantly, throwing up his newly copied absolute barrier to block the attack. This blade slams into the shield, barely managing to save Kyoki from certain death. Cookie immediately counterattacks with his thorn skill, demanding to know why the head is a traitor, and the old man calmly reveals his own op ability, Future Sight. He effortlessly dodges every single one of Cookie's attacks, seeing them before they even happen. Our boy is floored, realizing he is up against an opponent who can literally read the future. This head mocks him, saying his attacks are useless, but then notices something strange. Cookie's movements are somehow unpredictable, even for his precognition. He realizes Cookie is not moving like a human, which is throwing off his predictions. This gives Cookie a sliver of hope, thinking he has found a weakness in the perfect defense. But before he can capitalize on it, the head's body begins to glitch and fade away. It was just a magical projection the whole time, a perfect remote assassination. The scene then cuts to the Ministry of Magic's morgue with Cookie standing over Kyoki's body. He looks down in defeat, apologizing that he was not strong enough to save him. Cookie starts putting the pieces together, wondering about a huge plot hole in the official story, like how the great Archmage could prophesize the apocalypse with his future sight, but somehow missed the tiny detail that his hand-picked saviors would get completely wiped out. A chilling thought crosses his mind. What if the old man saw their defeat coming all along and knowingly sent them on a suicide mission with a deliberately false prophecy? This only question is why, and Cookie needs to find out before it is too late. Luckily, he's got a live tracker pinging the Archmage's real location. Thanks to a sticky bullet skill he managed to tag him with during their fight. This old man did not even notice the little magic GPS stuck to his robes, which means Cookie can now follow the signal straight to his secret hideout. He is dead set on confronting the traitor and getting some real answers. This tracker leads him to some kind of high-security off-the-books facility. And when he cautiously peeks inside one of the rooms, he finds a massive chamber filled with rows of what look like cryopods. Before he can process what he is seeing, the Archmage himself appears right behind him and immediately goes for a killing blow, forcing Cookie to dive out of the way. Thinking on his feet, our boy grabs a random pipe and uses his iron body skill to forge a makeshift sword, just in time to block the Archmage's next deadly swing. This old man seems genuinely surprised that the kid can actually hold his ground, as the two of them are now locked in a full-blown sword fight. Cookie taunts the old man, asking if he is wondering why his predictions are suddenly off, revealing he copied the future sight skill during their last fight, and now their powers are interfering. This Archmage realizes this means neither of them can see the future properly at the moment, which levels the playing field for a good old-fashioned brawl between a sword and a pipe. Cookie presses him for answers, demanding to know what he really saw with his precognition, putting all his strength into holding the Archmage at bay. He calls out the massive plot hole. How could he foresee the apocalypse but not the Savior's defeat? He accuses the Archmage of knowing that hell was coming for everyone, and worse, that he deliberately sent them all to their doom. Fueled by pure rage, Cookie swears he will never forgive him for the betrayal. He channels that anger into a massive overhead swing, bringing the pipe down with full force, and the Archmage starts coughing up something dark from the impact. But instead of blood, a wave of mud explodes from the old man's body, leaving Cookie completely stunned, realizing he is not fighting a person at all. Just then, a new voice confirms his suspicion from behind him, as a man in a lab coat explains that the great Archmage is, in fact, already dead and has been for some time. Cookie recognizes the newcomer as number 5, Ashia, and demands to know what he is doing here. Ashiya just smirks, calling our boy a little slow on the uptake. Before revealing his own creepy skill, Mud Puppet, which lets him control corpses at will, Ashiya gloats that the great archmage everyone trusted has been his personal puppet the entire time, and Kuki is completely floored, struggling to believe what he is hearing. This horrible realization dawns on him: if the archmage was a puppet, then the prophecy was a total lie. Ashiya just smiles, casually confirming he forced the archmage to announce the fake doomsday. All in the name of a truly insane goal, to destroy the world more effectively. Kuki is absolutely livid, finally understanding the true depth of this betrayal. This mad scientist explains that the apocalypse was coming no matter what, so there was no point in hiding it, which is why he staged the prophecy and created the 7 saviors to give everyone a false sense of security. By giving the public heroes to believe in, he made them all feel safe and relieved. And with everyone's guard down, they became easy targets for the real disaster. This whole elaborate scheme was just to ensure he could destroy the world more reliably, a concept Kuki cannot even begin to wrap his head around. Ashiya declares that the end of the world is a non-negotiable event because it is what they want. Before Kuki can even ask who they are, the villain continues his monologue, spelling it out that he killed the real archmage just to use his corpse to lie to the entire world. The sheer scale of this conspiracy sends a chill down Kuki's spine. As he looks around the lab, realizing he's standing in the den of a complete madman, it all clicks into place. Ashiya did not just predict the apocalypse, he orchestrated it from the very beginning. To top it all off, he smugly reveals he even joined the saviors as number 5 for easier access. But then he gets serious, pointing out that Kuki somehow knew the saviors were a sham from the start. Ashiya complains that Kuki snooping is becoming a real problem for him, which is when our boy realizes he is in some serious trouble. Without warning, mud erupts from the ground around them. As Ashiya activates his mud puppet skill on a much larger scale, reanimating a whole army of dead mages he has been collecting over the years. Kuki is absolutely done with this guy's games, his fist glowing with power, and he smashes through the first puppet while demanding to know why he wants to destroy the world. Ashiya just smirks, saying there's no point explaining since Kuki's about to die anyway. Seeing the horde closing in, Kuki knows he has to act fast, activating his bind skill with a glowing magic circle on his hand. He unleashes a gravity fire combo, incinerating one of the puppets instantly, which actually impresses the mad scientist who is fascinated by Kuki's ability to combine skills. Ashiya gets a genuinely creepy look in his eye, deciding he needs to study Kuki's body, and pulls out a syringe, announcing he will be adding our boy to his collection. But instead of attacking, he injects the mysterious substance into his own neck, using his skill to create an enhanced mud form that bulks him up like a super soldier. Kuki is stunned as Ashiya explains his mud does not just control corpses, can also enhance the living. This newly buffed villain throws a punch with incredible force, which Kuki barely manages to block. He is struggling under the pressure, knowing his magic is running low but seeing no other option. Ashiya just mocks him from above, asking if this is really the best he can do. Backed into a corner, Kuki pulls out his trump card, combining Future Sight and Absolute Barrier. And the mad scientist actually looks impressed for a second, realizing our boy has created an auto-defense system using the skills he just copied. This barrier holds strong, sending the buffed-up villain flying backward from his own attack. Ashiya just gets back up, mocking him that his mana will not last forever against this kind of power, and he is not wrong. The shield is already starting to crack under the pressure. But Kuki is not just defending, adding his Thorn user skill into the mix for a counterattack, which actually manages to land a hit, surprising Ashiya with a third simultaneous skill. Kuki is clearly running on fumes, but he is not backing down an inch. Ashiya is genuinely amazed, admitting that predicting, defending, and attacking all at once is some next-level talent. Kuki uses the opening to demand the one answer he needs: why destroy the world? Surprisingly, Ashiya decides to spill the beans, explaining the apocalypse is just monsters from another dimension coming to eat. Turns out, these interdimensional horrors have been pumping magic into the human world on purpose, and the horrifying realization starts to dawn on Kuki. Ashiya confirms it with a smug grin. They gave humans magic to terraform the planet for them. Once the world is saturated with magic, the monsters can cross over and feast on the now delicious humans. Humanity was never given a gift. They were just being fattened up like cattle. This villain then has the nerve to ask Kuki if he is okay with that. Kuki fires back, pointing out that Ashiya is human too, so he is on the menu with everyone else. But Ashiya just laughs, his body glowing with dark energy, and asks, "When did I ever say I was human?" Kuki is completely stunned, trying to wrap his head around Ashiya's impossible claim. And before he can process it, the scientist's body starts to violently contort with dark energy. As monstrous fiery wings erupt from his back, his face literally splitting open into a horrifying, toothy maw as his human disguise shatters. In just a few seconds, he is transformed into a hulking, demonic beast. Our boy can only stare in disbelief, his mind completely failing to catch up with reality. Suddenly, a traumatic memory flashes through his mind, the day the 7 saviors were annihilated. He recognizes the monster towering over him from that very same day, remembering his teammate shoving him out of the way, telling him to be the decoy. Right before a massive energy beam vaporized her and another so-called hero, he remembers screaming totally powerless as his friends were sacrificed. This other savior had coldly justified it, saying he was more valuable than some woman. He can still hear someone yelling for her to hang on even as she faced her end. This woman had used her last breath to tell Cookie to run from the grotesque human-faced creature. And back in the present, the horrifying truth clicks. Ashiya is that monster. This thing gloats that the chosen like him will survive by devouring the rest of humanity. This weight of it all crushes Cookie, realizing the man behind the apocalypse also killed his friends. He looks up, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated rage and despair. Monster Ashiya mockingly congratulates him for making it this far, then says goodbye, unleashing a massive energy blast straight at our boy to end it once and for all. Cookie can only stare up in horror as the energy blast comes right for him, realizing he's completely out of magic and cannot even move his body. Suddenly, a massive ancient magic circle appears in the sky above the lab, and Cookie finds himself falling through a vortex of red energy, refusing to die like this. He desperately tries to activate Absolute Barrier one last time, a seal glowing on his hand, but nothing happens. He is completely tapped out of mana. This blast makes impact, and everything just explodes in a flash of red light. We flash back to several days ago where a woman was asking Cookie about his true skill, and this silver-haired lady seems to know a whole lot more about his powers than he does. She explains that his copycat ability is just a parlor trick compared to his real, innate power. Cookie is understandably confused, having no idea what she is talking about. This thought that he might have a unique magic all his own completely blows his mind. When he asks how to use it, she starts explaining the activation requirement, which turns out to be activating 7 different skills at the exact same time. Our boy is justifiably shocked by that absolutely insane condition. She clarifies that every skill he has copied is actually a key to unlocking his true potential, and using 7 skills at once for the very first time is what will trigger finally opening his personal crest and unleashing his real power. Cookie starts sweating because 7 is a pretty intimidating number, admitting to her that the most he has ever managed to combine is 2. This silver-haired woman explains he could probably manage 3 skills in a real fight, but trying to use all 7 at once would instantly drain his mana to 0. She calmly lays out the final crucial detail for this ultimate power. It is a one-shot wonder that can only be activated when he is at full capacity. Back in the present, Cookie is about to be annihilated, desperately trying to cast Absolute Barrier, but he is completely tapped out and nothing happens. He is begging for just a sliver of magic as the beam barrels down on him. When suddenly his friend Momo tackles him out of the way at the last possible second, she shoves him to the ground, taking the brunt of the explosion herself. Cookie is completely floored, asking why she is even here. She holds up her phone, reminding him that he was the one who sent her the Archmage location. He remembers sending that message as a backup plan just in case things went sideways. Realizing how bad the situation is, he immediately yells at Momo to run, explaining he is out of magic and cannot even move. But instead of running, she starts charging up a fireball of her own. And to Cookie's absolute horror, she fires it directly at him. Monster Rasha is just loving the drama, calling their infighting a beautiful sight, except the fireball is not an attack. It is a wave of pink healing energy that washes over Cookie. Momo reveals her skill is a healing fireball, declaring she'd never abandon a comrade. Our boy is stunned as he feels his magic power rapidly recovering. Momo asks the million-dollar question. With his magic back, can he actually beat this thing? And Cookie is just stunned, asking when in the world she learned to use magic like that. She just vaguely says a lot happened, hinting at some serious off-screen development. Promising to explain later, she tells him to just focus on taking down the monster first. Ashiya, meanwhile, is practically drooling over finding a rare healer he can add to his puppet collection. Cookie thanks her, feeling his strength returning and getting ready for the real fight. This power surge reminds him of how weak and helpless he used to be. But he knows things are different now. He is not that same person anymore. He is no longer the magicless kid who was constantly bullied or the little brother who always had to be saved by his sister. Now he has comrades he can actually trust standing right beside him, and more importantly, he has his own unique magic ready to be unleashed. Monster Raskia just scoffs from above, calling his resolve completely useless. He brags that his body has magic immunity and super regeneration, so he cannot be hurt unless it is a one-shot kill. This monster taunts him, saying he knows all of Kuki's skills and none are strong enough to do the job. And that is Kuki's cue to prove him wrong, unleashing a blinding flash of power. He begins activating his skills, starting with gravity manipulation, thorn user, and fireball, then stacks on electronic hacking, phantom beast form, absolute barrier, and even mud puppet. Ashiya is still screaming that it is all pointless, completely oblivious to the 7-skill requirement. A massive chaotic vortex of energy erupts as Kuki finally unlocks his true power. Monster Raskia is completely floored, unable to process how his ultimate attack was just blocked, and he recognizes the glowing symbol on Kuki's hand as a black crest, ancient, impossible magic. Fueled by this new power, Kuki declares he's going to end this right here and save the world. He unleashes his very first unique skill, a devastating blast of dark energy called Vanta Black. This attack tears through the lab, leaving Momo to watch the chaotic aftermath from a distance. When the smoke clears, Ashiya is back in his human form, looking completely shattered by the hit. He can only mutter impossible before collapsing to the ground, totally defeated. Kuki gives a tired but victorious smile, thanking Momo for giving him the opening he needed. But his celebration is cut short as the recoil from his new power slams into his body. He drops to his knees in agony with a panicked Momo rushing to his side. Kuki stares at the crest on his hand, realizing this ancient magic comes with a serious physical price. He remembers that this kind of power is supposed to be extinct, only wielded by legends like the Great Archmage or by those who recited an ancient grimoire, which he knows puts a massive strain on the user's body. This silver-haired woman's words come rushing back, how his true skill was far more powerful than he knew. It finally clicks that this is the unique magic she was talking about, a power that is truly his. Back in the present, Momo runs over to check on him, and he manages to say he is okay. Despite the pain, Kuki clenches his fist, now more determined than ever to master this power. Meanwhile, on the streets of Japan, citizens are staring at their phones in utter disbelief. A news alert is spreading like wildfire, announcing that the Great Archmage has vanished without a trace. This world is thrown into chaos as it is revealed that number 4, Kuki, and the Archmage are all missing. Meanwhile, a very much human Ashiya is chained to a chair in an interrogation room, where he is being grilled as the prime suspect in the whole incident by none other than number 3, the head of police, Agade Himka. She's clearly running out of patience, asking if he feels like talking yet, but Ashiya just keeps his mouth shut with a smug little smile. Himka lays out the damning evidence, connecting him to both the Archmage's and Kuki's disappearances, and demands to know why he was found passed out at the scene of the crime. His only response is a cryptic "who knows," which is the absolute wrong thing to say to her. Realizing words will not work, Himka decides it is time for a more direct approach, summoning a whole collection of magical torture instruments to get the truth out of him. As the weapons strike home, Himka seems thrilled to finally unleash her abilities, getting a little too excited about where to start the interrogation. Even in agony, Ashiya just compliments her technique, calling it not bad. Elsewhere, we find another character standing over a body in a morgue. It is the other savior from Kuki's flashback telling his fallen comrade he has avenged her. He is speaking to Kaoki, the woman who was vaporized, saving Kuki's life. Suddenly, a glowing grimoire materializes right in front of him, which he recognizes as the source of the mud puppet skill he copied from Ashiya. This book reveals the skill's first function is controlling corpses, explaining how Ashiya manipulated the Archmage, and its second, more mysterious function is something called Soul Doll. This grimoire explains Soul Doll can revive the soul of someone killed by Mud Puppet, but it is a one-time use only, which means he has a shot at bringing back Kaoki since she was killed by the puppet Archmage. He is worried about what happens if he fails, but knows he has to take the chance, because even the smallest possibility of saving her is worth the risk. With his mind made up, he activates Soul Doll, pouring golden energy onto Kaoki's body. And from her corpse, a tiny chibi version of Kaoki materializes in a poof of light as her original body on the slab completely disintegrates into dust. This savior just stares, probably not expecting this particular outcome. Shibikiyuki blinks, looking around with total confusion, wondering where in the world she is and what just happened. She looks up at a now giant Kuki, asking if it is really him and why she is suddenly so tiny. Overjoyed, Kuki scoops her up into a massive hug while she just yells at him to let her go. Sometime later, the gang is chilling at a park where Momo is absolutely ecstatic about their new friend. Holding up the tiny Kaoki like a trophy and gushing over how cute she is, Kaoki, now perched on Momo's head, yells at her to stop touching her, reminding her she is still the senior here. Still, she cannot help but reflect on the whole insane situation, thinking about how these two rookies were hiding such massive secrets from everyone. With Ashiya and the Archmage's betrayal, she realizes the world was rotting from the inside all along. Kuki gets serious, explaining that to stop the end of the world, they will need to defeat thousands of Ashiya-level monsters, and he suspects there are plenty of other factions out there with the exact same apocalyptic goal. With Kaoki perched on her head, Momo gets fired up, declaring she needs to polish her skills to be more useful. This gets Kuki thinking about where she even learned a healing skill like that in the first place. So Momo starts to explain the whole wild story. Turns out she ran into number 6, Siki, while getting crepes, and the two of them just hit it off. Siki actually ended up helping her train to master her fireball ability, which apparently has the soul of a phoenix hiding inside it. During their training, Siki bluntly told a confused Momo she was using her skill completely wrong. And to prove her point, she unleashes her own unique blue flame magic. Siki explains it reveals the true hidden nature of a person's abilities, showing Momo's fireball was never an attack but a phoenix fireball meant to negate damage and heal. Momo's reaction is, of course, complete and utter shock. After that, she practiced like crazy to get a handle on this new power, and eventually mastered the pink healing flames she used to save Kuki. Kuki then wonders why his own copied fireball skill does not have a healing version, and Kaoki chimes in from her perch, calling it a reverse skill. She explains that skills have two sides, a front and a back, that can flip after prolonged use. Just like Momo's attack became healing, Kaoki reveals her own absolute barrier has an ultra-offensive reverse side. This makes Kuki realize that his own unique magic must have a reverse side as well. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a massive dark vortex swirling above a hospital as a strange vision floods into someone's mind, showing two mysterious people at the edge of the abyss. This vision shows two mysterious guys in uniform looming over his sister Miki in a hospital bed, and Kuki snaps back to reality screaming her name, while Momo wonders what is wrong. He glances at the black crest on his hand, realizing what just happened, identifying the ability as Future Sight, a glimpse into a future that is about to become real. Without a second to waste, he bolts, leaving a confused Momo and Kaoki in the dust. This premonition flashes through his mind again, confirming his sister is in grave danger. He knows if he does not get there in time, that future is set in stone. Back in the vision, the two kidnappers descend from the dark vortex hovering over the hospital, where the more hyper one Roku is practically begging for a showdown. His silver-haired partner calmly tells him to focus since they are on the clock. Their target is inside a hospital room sleeping peacefully under the covers. This two of them slip through the window, landing silently in her room. With a soft step, the silver-haired man approaches her bed, telling the unconscious Miki that he has come to pick her up. He scoops her into his arms, and they fly off with Roku complaining about what a boring job this was. But just as they are about to leave, the leader stops short because Kuki has arrived floating in the sky to block their escape. He wastes no time activating a bind skill by combining gravity manipulation and fireball, then unleashes a devastating attack he calls Meteor Shower right at them. Roku just smirks, casually holding up a finger and telling our boy to hold on. Roku's single finger completely shatters Kuki's Meteor Shower attack into pieces, leaving our boy absolutely stunned that his full power assault was just casually nullified, while the kidnappers float there completely unfazed by the whole thing. Kuki loses his cool, screaming at them to give his sister back, but the silver-haired leader just smirks, commenting on how Kuki must have foreseen their arrival. Demanding to know who they are, Kuki squares up for another round, and the leader drops a bombshell. He knows Miki is the one who used regression magic. He then adds that he is also aware Kuki is the one who took down Ashiya, which prompts Kuki to accuse them of being another doomsday cult just like him. Roku just scoffs at the comparison, calling Ashiya a pathetic loser they'd never team up with. Done with the conversation, Kuki lunges forward, determined to get his sister back no matter what. But the leader simply says Miki is an important key, and they are taking her. With a flick of his finger, Roku decides to escalate things dramatically, summoning a massive demonic beast from the vortex above the city. Down below, Momo and Kyoki can only watch in horror as monsters start pouring out of the portal, with Kyoki pointing out that an invasion of this scale is completely unheard of. It gets worse when they realize these are not just any monsters, but S-rank threats or higher, and Cookie finally connects the dots. These two are directly linked to the end of the world. All across the city, apocalyptic creatures begin their rampage, confirming his worst fears. Meanwhile, another hero is shown desperately trying to hold the line against the overwhelming invasion. Fired up, Cookie warns the kidnappers he will not forgive them if they hurt his sister. But the silver-haired leader just smirks, dropping the bombshell that Mickey is not his sister at all. This understandably leaves our boy completely stunned and confused. This leader clarifies that Mickey is actually their comrade, not his family, and her true purpose is to bring about the destruction of the world. Cookie's brain just short-circuits, unable to process this insane revelation, while Roku just laughs his head off, finding the whole playing siblings act hilarious. Done with their games, Cookie tells them to stop messing around, flashing back to a fond memory of Mickey helping him with his studies. Snapping back to the present, he screams that she is his sister and activates his copy skill. Cycling through his entire arsenal of copied abilities to find the right one for the job, he settles on the dark magic he took from Ashia, the mud puppet skill, and channels its power into a brand new attack he calls Extreme Black Light. A massive pillar of dark energy erupts from below, shooting straight towards Roku, appearing to completely engulf the kidnapper in a devastating blast. Down on the ground, Momo and Kyoki can only watch the explosion light up the sky. But as the smoke begins to clear, Cookie watches intently, waiting to see if his attack actually worked. Unfortunately for him, Roku emerges completely unscathed and is now charging right at him. Cookie is left in total shock, realizing his full power attack did absolutely nothing. Roku just laughs, showing off a black crest on his hand that looks suspiciously familiar. And Cookie realizes with horror that this guy is also a user of ancient magic. Getting way too hyped for a real fight, Roku cracks his knuckles ready for a proper showdown. So he completely ignores his partner and lunges forward, deciding he wants to play with our boy. But the recall from using Ashia's dark power hits Cookie like a truck, paralyzing him on the spot. Down below, Momo can only scream his name, terrified of the forbidden magic he just unleashed. Unable to move a muscle, Cookie is forced to watch as the kidnappers fly off with Mickey. And the silver-haired leader just gives him a smug "see you later," promising they will meet again. As the dark vortex finally closes, Cookie succumbs to his injuries and starts falling from the sky. He plummets head first towards the ground while Momo watches in absolute horror from below. This black crest on his hand begins to fade as his consciousness slips away, leaving him totally limp and unresponsive as he continues his descent. His last thoughts are of his sister calling out her name in his mind. He flashes back to a fond memory of Mickey helping him study, encouraging him not to give up. But that memory suddenly twists into a nightmare, showing her with a terrifying demonic grin. Cookie then jolts awake in a hospital bed, completely panicked and disoriented. He finds Momo sitting beside him, who explains what happened after he passed out. Turns out Chibai Kyoki, now apparently named Kana, used some emergency healing to save his life. His memories of the fight come rushing back, and he insists he has to save Mickey, calling their claims a lie. He tries to force himself out of bed to go after them, but immediately collapses from the pain. Momo immediately shuts him down, physically holding him in bed and telling him he is in no shape to fight. And she is terrified of what will happen to his body if he ever uses that forbidden magic again. Kane then chimes in with a dose of reality, pointing out his desperate attack did not even work on them. But Cookie is still panicking, insisting that at this rate his sister is going to die, which is when Kane drops a hard truth bomb. If the world ends, he cannot save his sister either. This little spirit explains that first, Cookie needs to actually understand the skills he is trying to use. She asks if he can even use that dark power without it completely destroying him in the process, or if he can even make it stronger, because if not, getting Mickey back is just a pipe dream. That finally gets through to Cookie, who realizes he needs a better plan than just brute force. Seeing her chance, Momo pipes up, saying she knows the perfect person to help him figure this out, none other than the woman who unlocked her Phoenix Fireball, the powerful mage, Siki. This scene then cuts to what looks like a mage association meeting, where Siki is reporting to some higher-ups. She is volunteering for the duty of inviting a certain someone to the licensed mage exam, and though the blue-haired guy, Sagi, seems annoyed, the old man in charge tells him to let her do it. Saga storms off, leaving the old man alone with his thoughts for a moment. Turns out this guy is seriously twisted, muttering about how much he despises cocky, disrespectful brats. His friendly facade completely shatters as he decides he is just going to kill this person himself. But as he walks down the hall, Sagi is already powering up, dark energy crackling around his fist, clearly sensing the old man's murderous intent and preparing for a confrontation. Back at the hospital, Momo is practically begging Siki to work her magic and analyze Kuki's skills too. Siki is clearly not thrilled to be bothered while she is trying to relax, but she is apparently easily bribed, agreeing to help Kuki in exchange for a single crepe. Momo is so grateful she tackles Siki in a massive hug, much to her surprise. Kuki and can I just watch with Kuki noting how close she and Momo have become? Getting straight to business, Siki activates her blue flame analysis skill on our boy, but something immediately goes wrong. His dark power corrupts her flame, leaving her completely shocked. She tells the others she cannot see a thing, that his power is just a void of pitch-black energy. This system seems to agree, labeling his skill as unknown as a sinister aura surrounds him. Realizing her usual method is useless, Seeking tells Kuki he will have to find the answer himself. So she switches gears, unleashing a completely different ability called Green Flame. This new skill, she explains, sends the target on a little trip into their own mindscape. She tells him to go confirm the true nature of his power with his own eyes, and then completely engulfs him in a pillar of mystical green fire. Cookie's eyes snap open, finding himself suddenly transported somewhere else entirely. He is standing in what looks like the library, but something about it feels deeply wrong. Before he can even process it, he collapses to the floor, completely drained of energy. Looking up, he sees the librarian passed out on the ground and a mysterious silhouette standing over him. This new guy asks if Kuki is here to learn about his skill, and Kuki demands to know who he is. This stranger just smirks, revealing that he is the old you, specifically the version of Kuki from before he had any powers back when he was just a bullied kid. Kuki is completely floored as his past self taunts him, saying it is a good thing he finally awakened a skill. And this ghost of his past self condescendingly calls that skill amazing. While our boy is still too weak to even stand up in his own mindscape, clearly struggling against the weight of this whole psychic interrogation, this past version then drops the first bombshell. His real skill is not copy. It is create, revealing it is the very first ancient magic to ever exist in their world. Kuki cannot even process what he is hearing. As his past self explains, this magic literally gives form to his desires, clarifying that the copy skill was just for gathering materials for his real power. And now he gets to ask the big question, what does Kuki actually want to do? This voice echoes in the darkness, asking what he wants to become and what kind of magic he truly desires, which forces Kuki to confront the fact that he has always been jealous of everyone else's powers. A quick flashback confirms it. He wished he could take everyone's skills to become the best mage. And though he tries to deny it, his past self calls him out on his true motivation, getting strong. Because if he is weak, he cannot save Mickey, can he? That hits the mark, and as dark energy erupts around him, his past self promises he can be the strongest if he just wishes for it. His eyes begin to glow as a new skill activates, Banta Black Eyes. And suddenly, all the books in the library start reacting, glowing with a sinister red aura, prompting his past self to laugh like a maniac, declaring he is no longer a powerless failure. With books of magic floating all around him, he is told that everything here is now his to command. His past self declares that all the magic in this library is now his for the taking, which snaps us back to reality a few minutes earlier with Siki holding Cookie in her green flame. And our boy is clearly not having a good time on this little psychic trip. Momo and Kanai can only watch nervously, hoping he figures out his powers and returns safely. But their quiet moment is shattered by a massive lightning blast that erupts out of nowhere, forcing Kanai to instantly throw up an absolute barrier to protect everyone from the explosion. This attacker is revealed to be Juman, the twisted old man from the Mage Association crackling with power. Even with the barrier, the sheer force of the blast sends the little spirit flying backwards. Juman just smirks, commenting on how tough Kyoki-san still is, leaving Momo and Siki completely stunned to see the old geezer here. He then starts taunting Kanai, calling him pathetic and declaring the 7 saviors have fallen. When Kanai demands to know what he wants, Juman says he is here to take Cookie into custody. Adding with a psycho grin that he will apologize if he just so happens to accidentally kill him, Momo screams for Kenkai to protect Cookie as the little guy charges forward to fight. But Juman is just gone in a flash, completely disappearing before Kankai can even land a punch. A split second later, Kanai gets absolutely blindsided by a lightning attack from off-screen. He is totally outmatched, admitting he cannot even see the old man's movements. Juman proudly boasts about his lightning speed skill, which is too fast for the naked eye to follow. He then slams Kana with a supercharged blow, telling him he is no match for this power. Despite getting wrecked, Kana pushes himself up, vowing to protect the kid who once saved his life. Back in the real world, Cookie's eyes snap open, but he is not quite back yet. As he starts floating, surrounded by a swirling vortex of pure dark energy, Momo and Seeking are completely stunned, realizing he has somehow woken up mid-ritual. And it looks like his little trip into his own head unlocked a brand new skill, which the system helpfully labels as extreme black eyes. Suddenly, Siki and Momo both collapse, feeling their own magic being drained away. Even the old man Juman is struggling, realizing Cookie's new power is copying everyone's skills indiscriminately. And on top of that, it is absorbing all the magic power from anyone in the vicinity. Kane is also getting hit hard, barely able to stay conscious from the massive mana drain. This effect is spreading across the city with random civilians suddenly feeling weak and dizzy. Kane screams at Cookie, calling him out for literally stealing magic from innocent people. But our boy just looks down with dead eyes and says, "I know," fully aware of what he is doing. He has decided there is no point in a world where everyone has power. He needs to be the only one strong enough to save Mickey. So with a clenched fist, he vows to take everyone's skills and magic to become the absolute strongest. Momo can only watch in horror, begging him to stop this madness. Juman, however, is just loving this, muttering about how Cookie is far too dangerous to be left alive. Deciding to take matters into his own hands, he pulls out a pack of what looks like power-up pills. Kana recognizes it as an S-rank item, a magic enhancer that boosts power by over 100 times. This old man's eyes start glowing as he powers up, crackling with an insane amount of lightning. And with a final terrifying grin, he launches himself forward for a supercharged finishing blow. Just as Juman goes for the kill, his lightning attack gets completely nullified right in front of Cookie. And our boy coolly reveals he is using a bind skill, telling the fake savior he cannot even lay a finger on him. Cookie then unleashes a storm of copied magic fire, water, and vines all at once, and the barrage sends the old geezer flying, completely overwhelmed by the onslaught. He is in total disbelief, unable to process how the tables turned so damn fast. Hovering above him, Cookie unleashes his first new technique, Extreme Black Light, which absolutely obliterates the old man, engulfing him in a torrent of dark energy. Kana is completely floored, realizing our boy is not suffering any recoil from that insane technique. Seiki quickly figures it out, explaining he is using the magic he siphoned from everyone to negate the backlash. Momo looks on with a heartbroken expression, asking if this is really his answer. And she pleads with him, saying that becoming strong this way just is not like him at all. His expression remains completely empty, her words not seeming to reach him in the slightest. Kanai realizes it is no use, their words are not reaching the person Cookie has become. Ignoring them, Cookie announces he's going to find his sister by following the trail of her magic within him. He closes his eyes to focus, using their connection to pinpoint her exact location. And with his eyes glowing, he grins and declares that he can finally see the path to her. He then reaches up and literally tears a hole in reality, vowing that he is coming for her now. These others are stunned. He just opened a portal by himself, with Kanai immediately saying they have to follow. But Cookie just glances back and coldly tells them he does not need them. They are in the way. Momo is left absolutely shattered by his rejection, completely horrified by his words. As Cookie disappears into the swirling vortex, Momo screams, refusing to let him go. Absolutely determined not to be left behind in this critical moment. And with a desperate cry, she lunges for the portal, vowing not to let him face this alone. Siki can only watch in shock as Kanai gets sucked into the portal right after them. This scene cuts to a ruined chamber where a mysterious white-haired man confronts the new arrivals. This guy seems to be in charge, looking down on them with an intimidating presence. Turns out they have found Mickey, but she is unconscious on an altar with two men standing over her. A blonde-haired guy smirks, revealing he knows she was the one who used regression magic. This white-haired man is less amused, annoyed that she also stole the book of regression. He calls her a troublesome girl while she lies there completely helpless. Meanwhile, a strange creature performs a ritual planning to use the magic left in Mickey's body for their own ends. But their plan is interrupted when the white-haired man suddenly senses an intrusion. Right on cue, Kuki steps through his portal, making a grand entrance into their secret base. Momo and Kane come tumbling out right behind him, begging him to calm down and listen. This portal snaps shut behind them, trapping them all in this strange, ruined world. This blonde guy is just thrilled by this development, impressed that Kuki found his way here. Kuki, however, remains completely silent, his expression cold and unreadable. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity for a fight, the blonde guy powers up and charges forward, throwing a supercharged punch wreathed in dark red energy, and he lands a solid hit right across Kuki's face. This blonde guy boasts about his space transcendence skill letting him teleport his punches from anywhere, and he claims it is impossible to dodge so Kuki can do nothing but take the beating, taunting that our boy is way too slow to even think about fighting back. But his smug attitude evaporates when he realizes something is seriously wrong because Kuki is just standing there completely unfazed by the barrage of hits. He grabs one of the fists midair and coldly demands they give his sister back, then immediately unleashes another extreme black light at point-blank range. This blonde dude is blown away, shocked that Kuki is somehow even stronger than before, while our boy just gathers more dark energy looking like he is barely even trying, sending his opponent plummeting towards the ground with the force of the blast. Before the guy can recover, Kuki is already on him, winding up for a devastating follow-up, and he smashes his fist directly into his face with zero hesitation. This impact is absolutely brutal, sending blood flying everywhere, leaving the blonde guy completely stunned and cursing him out. He cannot believe it, wondering how Kuki mastered ancient magic when it made him collapse last time. Kuki just stares him down, his expression completely cold and unforgiving, as dark tendrils of magic swirl through the air, and we see the energy is being pulled directly from a weakened Momo and Kane. This blonde guy finally puts it together. Kuki is getting stronger by stealing power from his own allies. Meanwhile, the white-haired leader looks on with a grin, thinking this whole situation is just awesome. Momo can only watch in horror as Kuki continues his brutal beatdown, absolutely pummeling the blonde guy without a shred of mercy, leaving him a bloody mess on the floor, barely able to look up. Kuki demands to know where his sister is, and the guy finally spills that she is working for a group called Mobius. Kanai is shocked to hear that name as the blonde guy explains they are warriors from another world, a group of 5 born to protect the order of their own dimension. This revelation leaves Momo completely stunned, trying to process the whole other world thing. And the white-haired leader adds that their job is to perform a magic-eating ritual on invading monsters, which is why they sent a Shia to their world. Kanai finally connects the dots, realizing these guys are the ones orchestrating the end of the world. But Kuki could not care less about their villain monologue, completely dismissing their entire backstory. He gives the blonde guy 5 seconds to tell him where Mickey is or he is dead. Our boy starts counting down, his hand glowing with dark energy ready to end this. But Momo suddenly rushes in and grabs his arm, stopping him just in time. Kuki is clearly not happy about being interrupted mid-threat, and she screams at him that he cannot just ignore what is happening. She reminds him his original goal was to protect the world, not just his sister. Momo's words flash through his mind, questioning if he has forgotten Mickey's wish and does not care about anyone else's fate. He just gives a twisted smile, commenting that Momo's skill is not worthless after all. Furious at his cold response, Momo yells that this is not the Kuki she knows, and she powers up in a blaze of pink energy, declaring he is no savior. Momo's words hit him like a truck, triggering a flashback to a time when someone asked what kind of mage he wanted to be. And we see him as a kid being asked by a woman what kind of skill he truly wants, with his younger self excitedly declaring he wants the absolute strongest skill there is. She just smiles and asks what he would even do with a power like that. And little Kuki proudly proclaims he'd use it to protect his big sister. But his mentor gently tells him that protecting only one person is not enough because people with great power have a duty to protect everyone. She tells him she is sure he's going to become a great mage one day. Another memory surfaces of the blonde hero, telling a young girl that true strength means reaching out to help anyone in need, and that using your power for others is what being a hero is all about. Inspired, young Kuki asks his mentor if he could ever become a savior too, and she just gives him a reassuring pat on the head, telling him that as long as he never gives up, he definitely can. Back in the present, Kuki is clearly shaken, his old ideals crashing against his new reality. But instead of coming to his senses, he violently shoves Momo away with a blast of dark energy. This blonde guy feels his magic suddenly drop, but he grins, thinking Kuki is now vulnerable enough to finish off. He lunges forward with a furious punch, screaming for our boy to die, and he lands a clean hit, knocking Kuki to the ground as he stands over him triumphantly. Kana can only watch in confusion, wondering what the hell Kuki is doing just taking the hit. But a dark voice in Kuki's head urges him to steal more power, insisting he cannot save his sister otherwise, and he seems to agree his old way was wrong. Kuki is completely lost, questioning what is happening inside his own head. As his mind flashes back to his old self, admitting he was always jealous and just wanted to be the strongest. But the real goal was to become a mage his sister could actually be proud of. He wanted to be just like Mickey, a hero who fights for the sake of others, a mage who protects his comrades and all the people who matter to him. It hits him that if he does not become that kind of mage, he will not even be able to face his sister. And he even remembers vowing to her that this time, he'd become the world's savior. This weight of that promise seems to be causing him actual physical pain, and his memory shifts to a vast library, a pivotal moment in his past. A woman with light blue hair calls out his name, getting his attention, explaining that his creation skill actually changes its form in response to his feelings. A blue aura erupts around him as he finally grasps the nature of his own power. And she presents him with a book, revealing this is the first skill to ever exist and asks him to name it. Snapping back to the present, Kuki is on the ground looking completely wrecked while Momo crawls over to him desperately calling his name. This blonde dude is completely stunned to see Kuki already getting back up, and with his eyes closed in concentration, our boy finally names his true skill. His eyes snap open, glowing with a brilliant blue light as he announces its name is Light of Salvation. His opponent is completely baffled, unable to sense any magic power, and assuming this is all just a big bluff. Kuki just stands there with his magic power at 0, and the blonde guy starts taunting him for being out of gas. This blonde guy is absolutely furious, vowing to kill Kuki and everyone with him. But a massive surge of blue magic suddenly erupts from our boy, shocking everyone. And Kuki explains this is the savior's magic, which only activates when he is protecting someone. Apparently, when he has a reason to fight for others, his magic power becomes limitless. His opponent refuses to believe something so broken exists and charges in with a flurry of punches. But this time, Kuki effortlessly deflects every single one of them. This blonde guy is completely baffled since his space-jumping attacks are supposed to be impossible to block. And Kuki calmly informs him that he now fully understands his skill. Turns out, once Kuki sees a skill with his eyes, he can copy it, making it totally ineffective against him. His opponent can only scream that this is cheating, which is a bit rich coming from him. In the blink of an eye, Kuki closes the distance and grabs him by the face, ending the fight instantly. This white-haired leader watches this from afar, his eyes wide with utter shock. Noticing a strange white crest glowing on Kuki's hand that he has never seen before, Kuki calls this the light attribute, a type of magic that belongs only to him, then gathers his energy to unleash his first skill, the only one of its kind in their world. A blinding beam of pure white light blasts his opponent at point-blank range, leaving the guy completely knocked out on the ruined floor. Over by the altar, the white-haired leader just stares at the scene. His expression a perfect mix of disbelief and alarm, and he mutters that his man, Jinji, was just taken out. This blindfolded leader on the altar scoffs that Jinji losing to a human is just pathetic, while a new skeleton-faced goon asks if it is time for them to step in and finish the job. But she decides things are taking too long and just leaves, abandoning the scene entirely. Meanwhile, Momo is just thrilled that Kuki is back to his old self, giving him a huge hug. And he admits he only unlocked his true power because of her and Kane's help. Kuki genuinely thanks her for reminding him what he is actually supposed to be fighting for, and she just beams, telling him that is what comrades are for. Our boy gets all emotional, tearing up as he agrees with her. This moment is cut short when Kuki realizes he can sense his sister's magic, but it is fading fast, and Kanai immediately panics, knowing that means she is in serious trouble. Kuki tells them to head back to their world while he goes to save Mickey alone, but 2 more members of Mobius suddenly appear to block his path. This new girl, Roku, is casually taking a picture with the defeated Jinji in the background, leaving Kane completely bewildered, demanding to know who these new weirdos are. The skeleton guy Hyob just tells him it does not matter since they are all about to die anyway. Kuki senses their magic is even stronger than the last guys as they declare he cannot interfere with the ritual. Roku gives a creepy grin, asking if they are ready to die for Mobius's cause. Cookie prepares for another fight, his hand glowing with the crest of his new power. But the two villains immediately cast a spell, creating a massive absolute barrier to isolate him. It separates him from his friends, but Kana yells for him to go on ahead while they hold the line. Cookie hesitates to leave his friends behind, but Momo screams for him to go and save his sister while they can. Visibly moved, he gives them a heartfelt thank you, knowing the opening he made in the barrier will only last a few seconds, which is more than enough time for him to blast off at top speed. This Mobius duo sees him escape and vows to stop him, immediately launching a massive attack to cut off his path. But Momo and Kanai step in to intercept, declaring they are the new opponents. The skeleton guy just finds them annoying, doubting they stand a chance. And Kanai admits that, with their old power levels, he'd be right. Now, however, they are both crackling with a new energy that Momo feels too. Turns out, Cookie's Light of Salvation has a hidden ability. It is called the Giver, a seriously broken power-sharing skill. He can share his infinite magic with anyone whose skills he has copied, buffing them up. Momo and Kane accept the power-up, ready to hold the line for their friend. Meanwhile, Cookie speeds through the destroyed city when he suddenly senses a massive monstrous magic signature up ahead. He recognizes the Thorn user and prepares his copied skill, which is now supercharged with the light attribute thanks to his new power. As the monster recoils from the light, Cookie realizes something is very wrong here. Cookie can sense his sister's magic fading, but something is blocking him from getting any closer. And he knows he has to rush to save her while his friends buy him time, leaving Momo and Kanai crackling with borrowed power to hold off the enemy. This Mobius duo seems unimpressed with Roku casually asking her skeleton pal which one to kill first, but their 2-on-2 is suddenly crashed by a third person, a tall guy Momo recognizes as Sagi. Kanai is completely floored, demanding to know what the hell he is doing here, but Sagi just glares at the villains, flashing back to the day the portal opened. He remembers seeing that massive tear in reality rip open above the city, and in that moment he finally understood what was happening. It turns out he could feel a presence on the other side of that gate, someone lurking deep within that alternate dimension, and he realized that person had placed a powerful curse on him. Momo is completely lost, having no clue what this curse is all about, while Roku just gives a sinister grin confirming she is the one responsible. She then summons her trump card, an SSS rank phantom beast named Daruju. This girl stands there smugly backed by her horrifyingly powerful new friend, and Sagi immediately feels the curse take hold, clutching his chest in pain. Roku introduces the beast as her bestie with the strongest curse, forcing Sagi to ask why she targeted him. She reveals she saw the future, a world 5 years from now completely overrun by monsters. I can only listen in horror, realizing she is talking about the end of the world? Roku explains that in her apocalyptic future, there was one guy who was a major problem, and she points directly at Sagi, identifying him as the one who could have stopped them. Because he was too strong, she has been slowly placing a curse on him from another dimension, ensuring that 5 years later, he'd be too weakened to fight at his full potential. Momo is absolutely floored by this revelation, while Kane finally understands why Sagi was always getting hurt or sick. Sagi clutches his chest in agony as Roku mocks him, saying the pain gets worse with her nearby. Kane immediately tells him to stand back, realizing he is in no condition to fight, but Roku traps them all inside an absolute barrier coliseum, a massive dome that will not let anyone out until one side is completely defeated. She just smirks, realizing their plan is to split them up for a 2-on-2 brawl. Momo looks worried, knowing that even with the power Cookie gave them, it is going to be incredibly tough for her and Kane to face these two alone. Kane tells her he is counting on her to handle the skeleton guy Blaze. The skeleton swordsman, Hyobi, draws his katana ready for a fight. He instantly lunges at Kane, bringing his blade down with incredible force, and their weapons clash in a massive burst of red and blue energy. Kanai manages to block the attack, holding his ground against the overwhelming power. Hyobi is actually impressed, and out of respect, he decides to give him a warning. He reveals his blade is an ancient magic killing sword that will destroy Kanai's body on contact. Hyobi warns him that his magic killing sword will destroy his body on contact. While Roku reveals they are using ancient magic, showing off a crest on her own hand, she then unleashes her monster's cursed eye on Momo and Kanai, explaining that anyone who looks into it will have their bodies slowly destroyed by the curse. This effect is immediate as dark tendrils wrap around Momo, causing her intense pain. Roku just mocks them from the sidelines, telling them to stay still and die quietly. but Kanai just powers through it completely unfazed by the dark energy, leaving Roku completely baffled since the curse should be working, but he explains he has no flesh. Turns out his body is just a mud puppet, making him conveniently immune to a flesh-rotting curse. He checks on Momo, who grits her teeth and confirms she can still fight, flaring with purple energy. With that, she unleashes a massive healing spell, summoning a fiery phoenix to purge the curse. This leaves Roku in total shock, unable to believe Momo just straight up cancelled her ultimate ability. Momo explains that thanks to Cookie's power-up, she can finally use her healing magic on others. Finding this all way too interesting, Roku decides if the curse will not work, then she will just use brute force, claiming her monster has 3 times their power. Momo and Kane decide to go all out, with Kane ripping a massive boulder from the ground. Fueled by her desire to be useful to Cookie, Momo prepares a massive fireball of her own. Kane tells her to leave it to him, ready to make good on his promise to hold the line. They combine their powers, launching a massive flame cyclone tile breaker combo attack. These 2 attacks collide with the monster in a city block leveling explosion of pure energy. When the dust from their massive combo attack finally settles, Roku is left standing over the shriveled, defeated form of her SSS rank monster. Her skeleton partner, Hyobi, just dryly notes that it looks like she lost. Kane, completely spent, apologizes to Sagi and asks him to take over from here. Sagi thanks him, crackling with blue energy and admitting it has been a while since his body felt this light. With a grin, Kanai tells him to show these villains what he is really made of, and Sagi powers up, ready to unleash the full force of humanity's strongest man. Hyobi is not fazed, deciding to start over by summoning his own demonic-looking monsters. Momo can only stare in shock, realizing this guy can summon monsters too. Sagi gets serious, preparing to activate a skill of his own. He unleashes absolute water temperature, a massive wave of ice that clashes with the enemy's fire. Momo is completely blown away by the sheer scale of his power. Kanai explains his skill lets him manipulate moisture to absolute 0 or scorching hot temperatures. Hyobi admits it is a terrifying ability since moisture is in everything, including living beings. But then he declares he does not have any, launching himself forward for a direct attack. Their blades meet in a massive explosion of red and blue energy. Hyobi taunts him, saying his skill is useless against a skeleton, and he will just cut him down. This 2 of them then erupt into a high-speed duel, their slashes lighting up the battlefield. Hyobi is actually impressed, admitting the title of humanity's strongest is not just for show. But he still scoffs that Sagi is just a human in the end, winding up for a devastating final blow. Hyobi narrowly dodges the attack, taunting Sagi for missing his shot, and then boasts that his sword causes instant death on contact, so even a graze is fatal. The skeleton swordsman flares his red aura, promising the next hit will not miss. Sagi just smirks, deciding it is time for him to get serious as well. Hyobi points out that Sagi's moisture skill is useless against him, which Sagi confirms, but then he reveals a new trump card clutching his chest as a fiery aura erupts. Turns out he is about to use his own body as a weapon. He unleashes a brand new skill, enveloping himself in a blazing orange power. The skeleton's jaw practically drops as he realizes what is happening. Sagi is literally boiling his own blood to get a power-up. This insane technique circulates his blood at triple speed, giving him a massive but temporary boost. With no time to waste, he blitzes forward to end the fight quickly. Hyobi is completely shocked by the incredible speed, barely managing to block the strike. He cannot even track the sword's path anymore, admitting this is a whole different level of power. This 2 immediately erupt into a high-speed exchange of blows. Hyobia is forced onto the defensive, struggling just to keep up with the relentless assault. From the sidelines, Roku and the others cannot even follow their movements. Hyobi is genuinely in awe of this magnificent display of swordsmanship, calling it a beautiful sword dance as their blades fill the air. Sagi just keeps up the overwhelming pressure, his eyes glowing with raw determination. Hyobi is completely caught off guard by the sudden burst of speed, and Sagi's next strike sends the skeleton's sword flying clean out of his hand. This follow-up slash is so fast it sends Hyobi's head flying, who still thinks it is magnificent. With his opponent's body collapsing to the ground, Sagi stands victorious over the pile of bones, but the blood-boiling technique is clearly taking its toll, leaving him steaming and exhausted. Momo can only stare, finally witnessing the true power of the number 1 ranked hunter. Even Kanna has to admit that the only word for that performance is impressive. Sagi checks on his teammates, who confirm they are still too drained to move just yet. Unfortunately, the fight is not over as a new wave of grotesque monsters suddenly appears. Without missing a beat, Sagi unleashes his ice powers again, freezing them all solid. He tells his friends to rest, explaining he can only do this because they broke the curse for him. Kana just smirks, noting that being so openly grateful is not like his cold man at all. Meanwhile, Kuki is still trying to get to his sister, but something feels off. He realizes that despite his efforts, he is not actually getting any closer to her. In fact, the more he tries to move toward her fading magic, the further away he seems to get. He figures out he's been trapped inside some kind of spatial skill like an invisible maze. With no time for puzzles, he decides to just brute force his way out with a whiteout attack. This skill works perfectly, shattering the illusionary space around him like glass, but what he sees on the other side leaves him completely stunned. His sister is lying unconscious in a pod with a mysterious silver-haired man standing right beside her. Kuki finally finds his sister Miki, but she is unconscious on some kind of ritual altar. And the silver-haired man just smirks, saying the ritual is almost complete anyway. Absolutely furious, Kuki powers up, demanding they give his sister back immediately. He's not asking nicely, his eyes glowing with pure, unrestrained rage, and he immediately unleashes a massive pure white light beam attack. This villain, however, looks completely unimpressed, flaring his own sinister red aura. He catches the entire blast with one hand, effortlessly deflecting the attack. Kuki can only watch in disbelief as his full power move is stopped cold, this beam completely dissipating and leaving him kneeling from the effort. His opponent mockingly tells him to calm down, confirming he just deflected the whole thing. Kuki demands to know what this ritual is and what they are doing to Miki. But the guy drops a bombshell, saying she is not actually Kuki's big sister, and then claims with a creepy smile that she is their little sister. Our boy is just completely lost, unable to process what he just heard. Just then, a familiar voice calls out his name, breaking the tension, and he realizes it is Miki speaking to him telepathically. Even the silver-haired villain seems surprised, noting she is still conscious. Miki thanks Kuki for coming and apologizes for all the confusion, then confirms that what Roku said earlier was true. She is a member of Mobius. Turns out Mobius is a team of 5 warriors gathered from different dimensions by some mage. Miki explains that among the 5 members of Mobius, she was the youngest, and their job was to maintain the monster dimension, basically acting as cosmic zookeepers. They were also in charge of sending those monsters out to invade other worlds. But even back then, she always had doubts about their whole destroy everything mission, questioning whether unleashing chaos across the multiverse was really a good thing. Hearing the screams from the dimensional rifts, she knew in her gut this was all wrong. So one day, she finally voiced her concerns to the rest of the team, but the silver-haired guy just smiled and told her to stop thinking so much. She could not, though, declaring that she refused to be part of any more invasions. This did not go over well as another member grabbed her, telling her to just do her job. This whole team ganged up on her, reminding her of the mission they were given. Her silver-haired brother then declared that abandoning their duty was absolutely unforgivable. Realizing she was completely out of options, she knew she had to get out of there. So she made a break for it and ran away from her team and their dimension. Her only goal was to escape to a different world and finally live a quiet life. As a last-ditch effort, she grabbed the Book of Regression to take with her. She managed to escape their dimension, landing in a completely new world, arriving exhausted and alone on a peaceful-looking path, and the person who found her there was none other than Kuki's mom. After that, she was taken in and raised as part of their family. Miki continues her telepathic story explaining how Kuki's mom took her in as a child and raised her with all the love and care of a real daughter. Until one day, something truly wonderful happened. A new baby brother arrived. And that baby, of course, was Kuki. She was absolutely overjoyed, finally getting the family she'd always dreamed of, which was a world away from her old Mobius crew who were bound by chains and duty, because this new family was bound by actual love. She tells him that every single day since they met, from reading him stories as a toddler to walking him to school when he was a kid, her life has been filled with light, all thanks to him. She is just so grateful for every smile and for being welcomed into their home, a happiness she never knew was possible before meeting him. Back in the present, Kuki is completely wrecked, tears streaming down his face. But Miki tells him he has grown so strong and now he has to run away, warning him that Roku is just too powerful to fight. Kuki refuses, saying he could never do that because she was the one who taught him to always face his problems head-on, and to never give up because if he tries his best, he will surely succeed. Fueled by her story, Kuki swears he's going to take his big sister home, and his entire body erupts in a massive pillar of light as he powers up again. Roku just smirks, telling the outsider to stay quiet because this is a family matter. Ignoring him completely, Kuki unleashes another pure white light beam, which gets effortlessly deflected once again, blasting our boy to the ground. He realizes he has to be careful since his attacks could end up hitting Mickey by mistake. Trying a new tactic, he teleports to attack from a different angle, but the result is exactly the same with the beam getting swatted away. He's getting frustrated, realizing that no matter what he does, his light is just reflected. Roku decides to go on the offensive, combining gravity manipulation with a fireball skill, and launches a barrage of flaming meteors right at Kuki. This attack connects, slamming into our boy and breaking through his aura. This villain smugly explains that no attack will hit him because they all get reflected. Kuki is completely stumped, unable to copy or even comprehend this bizarre deflection skill. Roku condescendingly admits Kuki is strong, probably the strongest person in his world, but warns him that the more he attacks, the more he will only hurt himself. He tells Kuki to just stay still and watch since the ritual will be over soon anyway. Our boy demands to know what the ritual is for, and Roku decides to humor him. Turns out their ultimate goal is to revive the great mage Zero in this era. Kuki has no idea who that is, so Roku clarifies he is the progenitor mage. Roku explains that Zero was the first being in their world to possess magic and the founder of Mobius. But his existence has since vanished, which is why they started focusing on regression magic, a forbidden power that can grant immense strength and even transcend time itself. And their ultimate goal is to use it to revive Zero's soul in this current era. He notes that Mickey stole that power, casually wondering who she might have used it on. But it is not a problem because they can just use the regression magic still lingering inside her, effectively turning her into a vessel to bring their master back to life. Kuki is horrified, demanding to know what will happen to his sister once Zero is revived. With a chilling smile, Roku says they will kill her since they have no use for traitors. Our boy is completely stunned, desperately trying to figure out what he can possibly do, knowing he has to save his sister but cannot even land a hit on this guy, when he suddenly notices a strange crest glowing on the back of Mickey's hand. He recognizes it as his sister's crest, and a desperate idea begins to form. Realizing it is a massive gamble with no guarantee, he decides he has to take the risk. And instead of a beam, he forms a pure white light holy sword in his hand. Roku just scoffs, still confident that any attack is completely meaningless against him, but his smug expression instantly vanishes as his eyes widen in pure shock because Kuki's attack was not aimed at him, instead stabbing directly into Mickey. This holy sword shatters the pod's glass, piercing right through his sister's chest. Roku is left completely stunned, unable to process what Kuki just did. This entire scene shatters like glass, revealing Kuki was never in the same room to begin with, and that holy sword that stabbed Mickey, it actually just pierced Roku in the real world. Kuki announces he is finally back from the mirror world Roku trapped him inside. Wiping blood from his mouth, Roku asks him just when he figured out the whole trick. Kuki explains he noticed Mickey's crest was on her left hand, a dead giveaway. It was a reflection, which made him realize Roku was not using a deflection skill at all, but it instead set up a dimensional trap in advance. He created a pocket dimension that bounced everything back, effectively trapping our boy inside. So to get out, he had to find the exit and destroy it just like he did in the maze. He gambled that Roku, being a predictable villain, would place the exit on Mickey. Roku admits he is impressive, but then reveals with a bloody smirk that the ritual is already complete. Kuki's face absolutely drops as he realizes he might have been too late after all. Even the other Mobius members are completely stunned by this sudden turn of events, with the entire team just standing there not knowing what to do next. As Kuki rushes to his sister, Roku tells him it is useless because the end of the world is coming. Our boy can only watch in horror, completely powerless for a moment. Now holding Mickey, he is told this is all his fault because his massive magic power changed everything, turning his once peaceful world into a prime target for invasion. This entire chamber starts to collapse around them as Roku declares Zero will be revived, and he looks absolutely thrilled about the coming destruction. As the chamber continues to fall apart, the remaining Mobius members can only stand and watch. But Kuki manages to catch Mickey midair as she screams his name in terror, while the rest of her former team just looks on, completely stunned by the turn of events. Suddenly, a massive vortex opens up, pulling Kuki, Mickey, and the entire Mobius crew into the darkness. When the dust settles, Roku is left lying alone in the ruins, clearly defeated. A foot steps down right beside his head, belonging to the one he worked so hard to revive. This great mage Zero, who looks down and asks if this pathetic guy is the one who woke him. But then Zero senses something else in the air, a familiar power, noticing the very same creation crest on his own hand, realizing there is another user out there. He recognizes it as the power of creation itself, a power he thought was his alone. A wave of his immense magical energy washes over the ruined landscape. And with a smirk, Zero turns his attention to the monsters he has just awakened. Turns out, he's brought back an entire army of colossal beasts from the monster dimension. He looks down at the bleeding Roku and muses about how beautiful his monsters are, never changing, calling them pure life for simply following their instincts to devour magic. Thanking Roku for the wake-up call, he compares that pure monster instinct to humans as Roku's body begins to grotesquely swell and distort. With the creation crest glowing on his fist, Zero makes his final judgment, declaring humans ugly before completely obliterating his loyal follower in a bloody explosion. This scene then cuts abruptly to the quiet, peaceful exterior of Kookie's family home. And just like that, Kookie and Mickey are back home, standing at their front door before their mom. After everything they have been through, they finally get to say, "I am home." And their mom just breaks down, pulling them both into a massive, tearful hug. It is a genuinely heartwarming reunion, with everyone just happy to be together and safe. Later, Mickey apologizes for putting him through all this trouble, but Kookie is not having it. He just tells her that as long as she is safe, nothing else matters. She's still amazed at how strong he has become, admitting she never expected him to go so far. But Kookie's mood darkens, remembering Roku's final warning that the end of the world is coming. His mind flashes back to the villain's taunts, saying it was useless to struggle against fate. Roku's chilling words echo in his head, promising that the world would soon perish. And worse, the guy had pinned all the blame directly on Kookie, claiming his massive magic power turned their entire world into a giant target for invasion. This weight of that hits our boy hard, realizing this whole mess might actually be his fault. Mickey notices his distress, but she has something important to tell him. Turns out she erased her own skill when she came to this world so Mobius could not track her. But now, thanks to Kookie, her crest has returned and her power is back online. He is stunned to hear it is ancient magic, but she assures him she can handle it without any backlash. When he asks what it does, she explains that ancient magic typically controls time, space, or life. She then gets up to give him a little demonstration of her own unique ability, using her power to bring a dying plant back to full vibrant life with just a touch. Her ancient magic is revealed to be time manipulation, complete with some flashy clockwork effects, and she demonstrates by rewinding a flower's time, making it bloom instantly with a single touch. Kookie is blown away, but she clarifies it only works on objects, plants, and monsters, not humans. With this power back, Mickey declares she can finally be useful in the coming fight for the world. Our boy is clearly moved by his sister's determination to stand with him, and he takes her hand, showing they are in this together now. Kookie tells her straight up that she is not alone in this fight anymore. So Mickey smiles, vowing that they are going to protect their world as a team. Her words seem to strengthen his own resolve, and he agrees with a determined smile, ready to face whatever's coming. And just then, Kookie gets an idea for how they are going to handle this apocalypse. This scene cuts to a formal gathering where Kookie is on stage addressing a massive crowd of mages. This audience is already buzzing with rumors about him defeating number 7 and number 2. He formally introduces himself as the licensed mage, Akuta Kookie, and drops the bombshell that the prophesied end of the world is officially on its way. But he did not just gather everyone for a doomsday announcement. He has a plan. His big reveal is the formation of a new 7 saviors, which leaves the crowd completely stunned. First up on the new team is a woman with some serious style named Igoheimka, followed by Kanaimomo, a pink-haired girl holding a very unimpressed-looking little dude. And that grumpy little guy's name is apparently Kyoki Ranbwa. Next up is Sasaki Oroori, who seems to be mid-snack during this world-ending announcement, followed by his very own sister Miki looking ready for a fight, and the intensely serious-looking Sugitetsu, who definitely does not smile, rounding out the rest of the new 7 Saviors team. With Kookie himself at the center promising this crew will save the world, this crowd absolutely eats it up, cheering that they are all counting on him. But our boy immediately shuts them down, yelling that it is not enough. Because just 7 people cannot possibly save the entire world on their own, he rallies them, saying they need to combine everyone's power to stand a chance, which is broadcast across the city to people who feel completely useless. So Kuki tells them to stop thinking like that right now, declaring that he wants everyone to realize that they are the true saviors. Even his new pink-haired teammate seems impressed by the classic hero speech, and the crowd gets fired up remembering they have skills and can actually help, which makes Kuki smile confident that if everyone unites, they can win. But at that exact moment, a dark presence washes over the hall as a clock shatters, and someone in the crowd screams that portals are opening in the sky, revealing a full-blown invasion of what looks like S-rank or higher monsters. This guy who sensed them is horrified, realizing they have arrived way too soon, but Sagitetsu just powers up, vowing to erase every single one of them. As the monsters pour through the portals, one of them lets out a terrifying roar, but Kuki just reaffirms that their mission has not changed one bit, and his entire team of 7 saviors powers up, ready to stop this invasion for good. He activates a skill called Light of Salvation, buffing his entire crew. And Kane Momo is stunned, as she feels Kuki's immense magic power flowing into them. Meanwhile, civilians across the city are confused as the sky suddenly darkens and begins to snow, which turns out to be Sagitetsu's doing, who scoffs that he does not need a power-up anyway. With a single swing of his massive ice sword, he flash freezes an entire horde of monsters, calling his handiwork the Flowers of Absolute Zero with maximum edge. Kuki tells him to handle this area while the rest of them split up to cover more ground, and the other saviors immediately leap off to defend different parts of the city. Out on the streets, terrified civilians are running for their lives from a massive worm monster, but Sasaki Oroori drops in to deploy an absolute barrier to protect them. With the civilians shielded, Igo Heinke tells her she can finally go all out, her hands already glowing as she prepares a massive spell. Unleashing her skill, Arsenal, which summons a storm of golden swords, this 10,000 rain absolutely shreds the monsters in the area. And while Kyoki calls her the shield of the saviors, she tells him not to lump her in with the team. Just as they finish, an even bigger skeletal beast appears drawn by Kuki's overflowing power, and the newly empowered civilians start to doubt if they can really fight something so terrifying. Kuki's speech totally works as another mage steps up to rally the crowd, telling them they can do this, unleashing a massive fire buff that engulfs the entire area in a red flame of pure morale. And just like that, the regular citizens are juiced up, their eyes glowing with newfound confidence. And with a battle cry, they charge straight into the fray to fight the invading monsters themselves. Even Kanaimomo is a little surprised to see the civilians actually holding their own against the horde, so she flies down to an injured woman, taking on the role of the team's dedicated healer. A quick heal ball patches the woman up instantly, leaving her completely stunned, and Kanai tells her to bring any other wounded mages her way, establishing a mobile aid station. Elsewhere, Miki faces down her own set of monsters, thinking about how she once supported this invasion. But now, with her time magic flaring, she is determined to be the one to stop it. She used to just listen to screams, but now she is the one actively protecting people with her power, musing on the irony of it all while trapping a monster's head in a time-stopping gear. Her resolve is absolute as she continues to fight, fully embracing her new role as a protector. Kuki himself is leading a charge of empowered civilians against a swarm of flying beasts, and he cannot help but smile seeing that his crazy plan to unite everyone is actually working. These people he inspired are fighting with everything they have got, and it is an incredible sight. But then he spots a couple of familiar faces in the crowd of fighters. It is 2 of his old classmates powered up and running into battle alongside everyone else. He remembers one of them, Iwishida, from back in the school library, and the other, Kusano, who was with him, leaving Kuki completely stunned to see them here. His old classmates are literally bowing on the ground, apologizing for how they treated him before, admitting that seeing him get so strong made them feel ashamed of themselves. But there is no time for a heart-to-heart because a giant mechanical skullbot is bearing down on them, so they decide to use the power Kuki gave them to finally fight for real. Kusano immediately hits the monster with some slick gravity manipulation, while Iwishida skewers another one from below with his new thorn user ability. Kuki watches them, thinking that with everyone fighting together, they might actually have a chance to win this. And, of course, right on cue, a brand new, even more ominous portal rips open in the sky. Our boy immediately feels a terrifying presence from it, wondering what fresh hell this is. As a new boss-level character descends, surrounded by a swarm of demonic-looking monsters, this new arrival is a long-haired blonde dude who looks entirely too calm for an apocalypse. He looks down on Kuki from above, simply identifying him as a human, before revealing he is also a human who possesses a special power just like him. Kuki is completely thrown, recognizing the glowing symbol on the guy's hand as a white crest. This crest itself is an intricate glowing pattern crackling with some serious energy. Suddenly, all the monsters on the battlefield start glowing with the same power, their behavior changing instantly. Kuki immediately demands to know what this guy just did to them, and the blonde dude casually explains he's just giving them a little magic and physical strength buff. Not only that, he is also amplifying their killing instinct, calling his power creation. This primordial magic that gives form to wishes as a nearby monster mutates into something way worse. This new guy, Zero, boasts that with his power of creation, nothing is impossible, and Kuki immediately recognizes it as primordial magic, realizing the legendary Zero has been resurrected. Zero just gives him this smug, all-powerful look, basically confirming Kuki's worst fears, complaining about his unpleasant awakening and how noisy the world has become. In his eyes, all of humanity is just a mass of ugly creatures stained with greed, and he finds the newly empowered civilians fighting for their lives to be particularly repulsive. Kuki demands to know why he's trying to end the world, so Zero decides to explain his grand wish, which is basically that humanity is worthless while monsters acting on pure instinct are the true natural order. He even has the audacity to ask Kuki if he finds this beautiful, which obviously does not go over well. Zero continues his nihilistic rant, saying no human is worth saving, not even himself. But Kuki is not having it, yelling that people live with hope as he powers up to shut him down for good. He unleashes a massive blast of pure white light directly at the new boss, and the attack connects with a huge screen-clearing explosion. For a second, it looks like it might have worked, but Kuki's face tells a different story. Because when the smoke clears, Zero is just standing there completely unharmed. This guy did not even flinch, mockingly asking if that is all the power a human can muster. Zero explains that if he takes out Kuki, the light of salvation, all of humanity's newfound hope will vanish with him. So he powers up his creation magic once again, ready to make an example out of them, juicing up that giant skeletal monster until it is roaring with overwhelming dark energy. Kuki can only watch in horror as the already dire situation gets exponentially worse. Kuki zips across the ruined street, narrowly dodging a powerful blast from Zero, who taunts him asking if he is afraid, but Kuki knows that if he loses here, it is all over. Flashing back to the apocalyptic future he is trying to prevent, a world completely annihilated, where he saw countless people, including his former comrades, brutally killed. And even his strongest allies fell, leaving him completely alone in the end, which makes him realize that if he fails now, his entire regression was for nothing. And the weight of all those past failures is fueling his resolve to not let it happen again. Back in the fight, he powers up screaming he cannot afford to lose while Zero just calls him foolish. But Kuki retorts that this world has already ended once, and he is not about to watch it burn again, immediately unleashing a binding skill that sends thorny chains shooting towards the villain. And the attack connects, wrapping Zero up completely in a thorny prison. So with the boss restrained, Kuki decides to go for the kill, combining his own skills for a massive follow-up attack, mixing gravity manipulation with fireball to summon a literal meteor shower down on Zero's head. But Zero just stands there amidst the fiery apocalypse and calls the whole thing worthless. As the meteors freeze in midair, leaving Kuki completely stunned as to when he even did that, so our boy quickly throws up an absolute barrier combined with future prediction to brace for the counterattack, realizing in horror that Zero is casting this insane magic without any chanting at all. And Zero scoffs that even for someone who has surpassed humanity, Kuki's magic is pathetically shallow. Then comes the gut punch. Zero reveals that all of these skills, Thorn User, Gravity Manipulation, even Absolute Barrier, are powers that he, created. Kuki is completely stunned, barely able to process that Zero just claimed to have created all his skills, and Zero casually admits that Kuki's white light is the only magic he does not recognize. He demands to know what it is, but the sheer pressure of his mana keeps Kuki pinned to the ground. While he boasts that he could easily replicate any of Kuki's other abilities if he wished, as Kuki feels that overwhelming power, a horrifying realization finally starts to click into place. Zero decides to give him a practical demonstration, charging up a ball of pure energy in his hand, unleashing a devastating beam of purple light straight at our boy, and the force sends Kuki flying, completely unable to comprehend what is happening. This attack is a massive, city-cleaving blast of pure destructive power, and Kuki knows instantly that none of his skills can possibly stop this thing. He braces for impact, thinking he is not going to make it out of this one alive, but the beam narrowly misses, carving a massive canyon right through the city streets instead. Kuki realizes Zero missed on purpose, a warning shot that would have vaporized him instantly. Zero smugly explains that this is the gap in their power, and he will not be so merciful next time. He tells Kuki, the one who inherited his magic create, to simply give up and despair. This triggers a memory for Kuki, something he read a long time ago in the school library, flashing back to a book about the legendary progenitor mage who created all magic 150 years ago. Kuki yells that the legend said magic was created to make people happy. So he demands to know why Zero, its creator, hates humanity so much. Zero just looks down at him, calmly offering to tell him a little story from the past. Zero starts his villain monologue explaining he was born into this world 150 years ago, and he was apparently the very first human to ever awaken to magic, seeing it as a miraculous power that could heal the sick and make the world a better place. So in a fit of optimism, he decided to grant this magic to all of humanity, a power that would later be known as the legendary ancient magic. Unfortunately, the raw power was way too much for the average human body to handle, so he learned to divide it into different elements to make it more compatible for everyone, simplifying it into the various skills and abilities people use today. He was so sure this would bring happiness, but he quickly learned that humans are just ugly, greedy creatures. And he tells Kuki he can probably guess what happened next. Because as soon as magic spread, people immediately started using it for their own selfish desires, with every new mage just adding to the bloodshed and chaos. Completely disillusioned, he just peaced out and moved to the spirit world instead, where he wandered around and encountered monsters that feed on mana and humans. But unlike people, they lived by pure instinct, which he found to be dazzlingly pure, confirming his belief that humanity is just an irredeemably greedy and sinful race. So he came up with a new plan: send S-rank monsters to eradicate humanity and purify the world, which is the entire purpose of this whole invasion, leaving Kuki completely floored. To get the ball rolling, he gathered a bunch of pure kids, founded Mobius, and tasked them with supporting his apocalypse. And then, having set his grand plan in motion, he put himself into a long slumber to wait it out. He complains that he was supposed to sleep through the whole apocalypse but got resurrected early. And just to be clear, he finds the current state of the world completely and utterly repulsive. Kuki is just stunned as Zero takes full credit for starting this entire mess, boasting that it does not matter if Mobius fails or if Kuki tries to stop him. His wish is absolute. Then, with some truly next-level villain logic, he declares he will end the world to save it. And when Kuki argues back, Zero reminds him that creation magic is literally the power to make wishes come true. So in a battle of wishes like this, the one with the stronger desire is guaranteed to win. And would not you know it, his ultimate wish is the complete and total extinction of humanity. Our boy feels that insane mana spike again, realizing Zero is about to make his move. As Zero gives him this dead-eyed stare, challenging him to put his life on the line. Kuki tries to counter, but he is suddenly trapped by pillars of glowing energy, his body completely frozen inside a massive, intricate magic circle on the ground. Zero just calmly tells him to learn his place because his wish is simply stronger than anyone's, in fact, as he channels overwhelming power through his own crest. With that, he unleashes a devastating beam of purple energy straight at our boy, and the attack connects in a massive pillar of light, absolutely tearing through the city block. Kuki takes the full force of the blast, getting completely obliterated by the impact, and he is left lying in a crater battered and broken from the overwhelming attack. Down below, the newly empowered civilians look up in horror as his light of salvation just vanishes. Zero just looms over him, mockingly saying it looks like his light of salvation has finally gone out. Just as Kuki's about to fade, a familiar face with angelic wings swoops down from the sky, and it is Momo desperately trying to keep him from dying right there in her arms. Zero, however, is completely over this touching reunion and commands his monsters to attack, ordering them to just overrun and wipe out everyone left on the ground. This empowered monsters immediately surge forward, overwhelming the remaining defenders, who realize the tide of the battle has suddenly and violently turned against them. As Momo cries out for Kuki not to die, she unleashes a massive wave of healing energy that completely engulfs his body. Our boy's wounds instantly vanish, leaving him more confused than grateful at first. Zero analyzes the phenomenon, realizing she did not just heal him, she literally reversed time on his body. Kuki stands up, fully restored and crackling with a new blue aura, much to Zero's surprise. He asks Momo if her ambition was to become stronger than him, and Zero seems genuinely intrigued by this unexpected power display. Kuki powers up his new energy, flaring to life around him. He gives Momo a confident smile, thanking her for the save, which makes her blush. The two of them rise into the air, ready for round 2, leaving Zero momentarily stunned. With his confidence restored, Kuki tells her that everything is going to be okay now. This triggers a memory for Momo of when Cookie first transferred, realizing he has changed so much. She tells him to go save the world, and he gives her a thumbs up ready for action. But Zero instantly teleports in front of them, asking with a grin who said they could leave. Zero is not about to let them just fly off, blocking their path with a smug grin. So Cookie unleashes a massive pillar of light down on the monster horde below. Zero just scoffs, noting that while Cookie's power has spiked, he is still just a human. Cookie fires back that Zero is the one who has given up, insisting humanity is not as ugly as he thinks. This villain is completely unmoved, calling humans the very definition of self-interested filth. So Cookie asks him point blank if that is really why he is going to end the world, and Zero confirms it without a hint of hesitation. He is going to destroy everything himself. Cookie argues that with his power, he could save the world, but Zero says he is only interested in his own hope. That is when it clicks for our boy: if creation magic grants wishes, then he will just have to overpower Zero's. He declares that his wish is to save this world from him, and unlike Zero's, his wish has absolutely nothing to do with despair. With that, he cocks his fist back, ready to throw down with the creator of magic himself. He zips forward with incredible speed, moving faster than Zero can even track, leaving the villains standing there completely flat-footed. Zero barely has time to wonder where he went before Cookie's fist is right in his face. The sheer speed and physical power are completely off the charts, catching him by surprise. For the first time, the progenitor mage is actually feeling pressured by another person's magic. Cookie moves like a blur, creating afterimages as he closes the distance in an instant. Zero can only rage about being challenged by mere humans. Right before Cookie lands a clean punch straight to his jaw, leaving him utterly stunned, this punch sends Zero flying backwards, completely unable to process why he is being overpowered, and Cookie's fist connects so hard that the progenitor mage is actually bleeding for the first time. Zero crashes down into the ruined city like a meteor, kicking up a massive explosion of debris. While Cookie tells him to take a good look at the world he is so desperate to destroy, he asks if Zero really believes humanity only uses magic for selfish reasons, pointing to the people below who are actively using their powers to shield and heal each other. Zero gets back up, completely unmoved by Cookie's argument that magic is meant to protect people. Instead, he decides it is time for another one of his cynical history lessons, telling a story about the first guy to get Fireball who used it to extort the desperate for healing. This villain was so greedy that people gave up their land, their families, and even their lives for his help. Zero dismisses any good deeds as pure coincidence, claiming humanity's malice is an unstoppable force. He insists that no matter what Cookie says, using magic for greed is the fundamental nature of the world. But Cookie just calls him out, saying the real problem is that Zero himself has simply given up. After all, destroying the world is a whole lot easier than actually trying to protect it. Zero is absolutely not having it, calling Cookie's entire argument complete nonsense. Cookie, however, knows from experience that people can create a happy future if they do not give up. With that renewed conviction, he begins gathering a massive amount of energy into his hand. Compressing all of that raw power into a single blindingly bright point, Zero realizes in shock that our boy is forging a holy sword out of pure magic with ridiculous ease. Not to be outdone, Zero creates his own massive energy blade, telling the mere human not to get cocky. These two finally clash, their massive energy swords tearing the sky apart, their powers colliding with enough force to level what is left of the city block. Zero mocks, asking if he really thinks not giving up is a viable strategy. As the shockwave from their fight just rips through another skyscraper, he keeps ranting that sheer willpower will not just hand Cookie the future he wants, insisting the future belongs only to the strong, the ones who control history and wealth. In his mind, the weak do not even get a choice in the matter. But then he stops, noticing the look of pure, unwavering resolve in Cookie's eyes. Genuinely confused as to how a human can still look so full of hope. He just cannot comprehend why our boy is so sure he's going to win this, getting angrier that Cookie believes in victory so damn much. Cookie calmly explains that he has always liked magic, even though he could not use it until recently, remembering his old life and saying he was just happy to finally be useful to someone. Zero scoffs that magic does not grant wishes, but Cookie fires back that wishes become asterisk magic. And with that simple belief, he declares he's going to save everyone in this world. His holy sword flares with power, completely shattering Zero's blade and slicing right through him, sending the progenitor mage flying back, bleeding heavily from the chest wound. He clutches the injury in total disbelief, calling the whole situation ridiculous. As his vision fades, Kuki's words about saving people with magic echo in his mind, which just sends him into a full-blown meltdown, screaming in rage at being beaten by human emotion. As Zero plummets from the sky, defeated dark energy just pours out of his body, while Kuki just watches him fall, still holding the holy sword that ended the fight. This progenitor mage can only stare in disbelief, unable to process how he lost. Our boy tells him that humans are not ugly. This world is actually beautiful. He then declares it is time to show Zero his true asterisk ability, much to the villain's confusion. With that, Kuki slams the hilt of his light sword straight into the ground, activating his ultimate skill, Light of Salvation, in a blinding flash of energy. Suddenly, entire world around them transforms into a massive library with pages flying everywhere. It turns out those pages are actually skill books swirling around them in a vortex of power. Kuki has dragged Zero into his own personal domain, a library of every skill he has ever acquired. With Zero trapped inside, Kuki announces it is finally time to settle things for good. This scene then flashes back explaining how this place became such a magnificent library. We see a younger Kuki just starting to build his collection of abilities. Turns out, this entire dimension started out with just 2 simple books. Now every single volume is proof of a battle Kuki fought to protect the world. He once asked his system guide, Bind, if he could use all of these skills at the same time. Bind warned him that activating so many at once would be impossible for his body to handle. Kuki seemed to accept that limitation back then, just taking in the information. Bind just looks at him with concern, probably realizing what he is about to attempt now. And back in the present, a massive dome of pure white light begins to form over the city. Inside this new reality, Bind appears likely acting as the administrator of Kuki's domain. This scene then flashes back to Kuki telling Zero he's about to see his true power. He slams his light sword into the ground, activating his ultimate skill, Light of Salvation, which drags Zero into a swirling vortex of pages inside a massive library dimension. Every single one of those pages is a different skill book from Kuki's vast collection. Zero is completely stunned by this sudden and absolute change of scenery, but he quickly recovers, calling it a magnificent trick while summoning his own blade to fight back. A magic circle ignites under him as he prepares to unleash his own power from a floating platform. Even trapped in Kuki's territory, Zero is still brimming with his own dark energy. And he gives our boy a look that says he is not even remotely impressed. To prove his point, he summons the Phantom Beast Flama, a massive flaming tiger, which gets immediately and brutally shredded by one of Kuki's unseen attacks. Zero is shocked, realizing Kuki is already using multiple skills at once, including gravity manipulation. A whole barrage of different elemental attacks comes flying at him from all directions. But Zero just scoffs, calling all of these high-level skills completely pathetic. He insists they are all meaningless right as Kuki's silhouette appears right in front of him. A hand covered in mud suddenly grabs his sword arm, stopping him completely cold. This progenitor mage realizes in shock that he was distracted by a simple mud doll decoy. At that exact same moment, his feet are frozen solid to the ground by an ice spell. Completely immobilized and outplayed, Zero can only stare down in utter disbelief. With his body locked down, Zero frantically searches for where Kuki's real self is hiding, but a massive holy sword is already materializing right behind his head. Kuki appears in a flash, letting the villain know he is right there, causing Zero to spin around and counter with his own dark blades, screaming not to be underestimated. His defense is instantly useless as Kuki summons a literal storm of weapons out of thin air, and the sheer volume of attacks is about to completely overwhelm the progenitor mage. In a panic, he unleashes a massive vortex of dark energy just to stay alive, which collides with the weapon barrage in a reality-shattering explosion. Zero just cannot process it. The kid is using countless high-level spells without any chanting, and he starts screaming, demanding to know where Kuki is getting this impossible amount of mana. This resulting blast is absolutely massive, engulfing everything in sight. When the dust settles, Zero is standing in a crater looking completely rattled. He glances up in pure shock at what he sees floating above him, finding Kuki calmly hovering amidst the swirling vortex of his skill books. This progenitor mage can only stare, finally realizing just how outclassed he truly is. Kuki then unleashes another devastating beam of light straight down on him, slamming Zero into the ground so hard it cracks the very foundation of the dimension. Barely getting up, Zero asks if our boy has finally used up all of his skills. Kuki just looks down and confirms that, yes, he has. He then explains that while he cannot use them all at once, he found a loophole, summoning them to act on their own. Zero scoffs at the idea of free will, insisting magic is only about absolute dominion. But Kuki explains that the skills themselves are actively trying to stop him. This progenitor mage calls this impossible, screaming that magic cannot have a will of its own. Our boy just calmly replies that it does. Magic is alive. Completely fed up, Zero summons another massive dark energy sword, screaming for Kuki to shut up as he swings it with everything he has left. This fight spills back out into the real world, with both of them clashing high above the city ruins. Kuki lands gracefully while Zero demands to know why he just does not get it. He reminds Zero that he is the one who created all this magic in the first place, and their blades lock once again in a furious stalemate. This resulting shockwave tears through the air between them. Zero starts getting desperate, guessing that Kuki must have had some grand purpose for creating magic. And in that moment, Kuki seems to finally understand Zero's original intentions. Realizing the feelings the progenitor mage once entrusted to humanity, this just infuriates Zero, who yells that Kuki could not possibly know anything about him. He declares his only wish is to purify the world and forge a new future for himself. Kuki just looks at him with pity, telling him it is okay to stop trying so hard. With his hand raised to the sky, he promises to save Zero right now, as the skill book for Light of Salvation materializes in a brilliant flash. This summons a massive spiritual entity called the White Book to tower over the battlefield. Zero stares up at the colossal White Book, completely baffled by this unknown magic, and he starts screaming for it to stop as purple energy begins to bind him. Kuki explains this is the end. The skill will erase all of Zero's abilities and mana. This progenitor mage is completely overwhelmed, screaming as his very existence is rewritten, flashing through memories of all the people he has affected throughout his long, twisted life. In his final moments, a vision of his original, much kinder self appears before him. As Kuki tells him this is a chance to start a new life completely free from his old power. With that, Zero finally goes limp, his reign of terror seemingly over for good. But the strain of using that ultimate skill was way too much, and Kuki starts to collapse, falling backwards, completely exhausted from the fight. Just before he hits the ground, his sister Sagi appears out of nowhere to catch him. As she holds our boy, the now powerless Zero just lies on the ground with a faint smile. He weakly says there is actually one thing he needs to thank them for, and Sagi explains that because of him, she was able to meet Kuki and learn to love the world. She gives him a genuine thank you as he lies peacefully on the ground. With Zero's defeat, the system confirms that the buff powering up all the monsters has vanished. All over the world, the weakened creatures are now being easily mopped up by humanity's forces, with one hunter shown one-shotting a massive boss with a huge ice spell. Elsewhere on the battlefield, a man with blue hair spots Sagi helping the exhausted Kuki, and he turns his attention to the last remaining monster, ready to end this once and for all. With the battle finally over, the pink-haired girl comes sprinting over, calling out Kuki's name. As the rest of his allies gather on the ruined battlefield, relieved that he actually won, and she leaps right into his arms, celebrating the fact that he saved their world, we jump forward 1 month to find the city in full reconstruction mode, with mages and volunteers working around the clock to repair the extensive damage. Elsewhere, someone wonders whatever happened to the now powerless Zero. But a certain blonde-haired man seems confident he will find his way. He just hopes the former villain can discover a new reason to live in this world. Meanwhile, at what looks to be the new official headquarters, trouble is brewing. As a woman bursts in to report, a new gate has appeared with 2S rank monsters inside. Everyone is shocked, realizing these must be lingering aftershocks from Zero's defeat. A calm woman asks for instructions from the man at the head of the table, who is none other than our boy, Kuki, now taking on the role of Archmage. He immediately starts delegating the mission to his sister and the other top hunters, and the blue-haired guy's team confidently heads out, promising to clear it in 5 seconds. Just as they leave, the pink-haired girl takes a call at the 7th Savior HQ, but the news she gets on the other end seems to completely blindside her. It turns out people at a reconstruction site are now fighting over the use of magic. Kuki decides to handle this political mess himself, asking 2 others for backup. He straightens his tie, ready to solve the kind of problems you cannot just punch. As he heads out, Kuki reflects that changing the world is a slow, gradual process, but he is met in the main hall by his sister and the pink-haired girl ready to help. And he gives them a confident smile, certain that they can make a real difference together. With his team assembled, Kuki leads the 7th Saviors out to face their new mission.